Saladcast.
No Bellium!
Hello and welcome to the Saladcast on Saturday, the 1st of June 2013. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Oh shit, it's June. It feels like April still, of course, because the weather.
Because weather.
Yeah.
And Robert Kemp.
Hello!
No, that's Steve.
Hello!
You think this is April weather?
Pretty much.
Yeah, maybe nice April. I don't know. Surely at some point it'll just lift and then it'll just be super hot like summer style.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's always the same though, isn't it? In UK, like these few months, like between April to June,
It's been a lot worse this year.
April to start of
Clearly.
June, it's just all kind of the same, isn't it?
I don't know. This year has been bad. Well, at least it seems that way.
Didn't we have like a
Bad, but in a good way, because I don't like it when it's hot.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's
fair
true.
enough.
But didn't we like have like a couple of weeks where was pretty sunny for a while?
It was like a couple of days
Yeah.
in like May.
That's true, yeah.
Well, I'm sure we had like a week of it, maybe a whole week of it. Sun.
Weather.
Sun.
Yes, Britain, we're preoccupied by the weather. With good reason this
Hey,
year.
guess what?
fuck's
It's
sake.
summer coming. It's going to be warmer.
Yeah.
I think that's
Will
guaranteed.
it?
Well, it'll be warmer in general.
Yeah.
If you averaged it out over the course of a year.
Don't the days start drawing in? And the nights start drawing in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's like the days get shorter, but yet strangely the hot weather comes after that.
Potentially,
It
yeah.
must be all currents and air temperature and
It's all currents.
all currents.
Black
All those
currants.
reasons.
Yeah,
Reasons. It's all currents. It's definitely currents.
effing berries.
Exactly. So, yes. Are we continuing with random for a bit? Is that the idea? I got
You
confused.
can't say, are we continuing with random?
I wasn't interrupting.
I was just confused because I thought, hang on a minute, we've got to talk about the bloody Xbox.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Not yet, though.
Okay.
You can't like force random.
I wasn't going to
Apparently not.
force random. I was going to bring up a different topic that's related to this podcast, but may lead to random, which was the fact that my computer is boned, maybe.
What?
Yeah.
What? Say what?
Not really, though.
What's going on?
Well, it's just started randomly hard graphics crashing. Like, everything on the screen corrupts and then it crashes, and then it somehow corrupts the drivers as well, so you have to go and reinstall all the graphics drivers.
Every time.
Well, not every time, just most of the time.
That's the bit that really confuses me. Like, what on earth corrupts graphics drivers? I don't think they get altered while they're in use, do they?
No, surely not. Is it a driver problem?
No, it's just randomly started doing it.
So, you've rolled back your drivers and shit.
No, you
I installed new
upgraded.
ones. When I uncorrupted them, I installed the newest ones.
Right, okay.
So yeah.
So, does this happen just playing games, like intensive 3D games, or does it happen just randomly when you're using the internet?
Well, I haven't seen it happen any other time apart from games so far. It's only happened like 4 times.
Okay,
And then like 3 of those were Guild Wars and 1 of them was Kerbal.
right, okay.
And it only corrupted twice out of the 4 times.
How did you know it was corrupted?
Because it garbles the screen when you reboot. It's got like lines over it
Oh, but you can see well enough to
to get into safe mode, yeah. And then uninstall them and reboot again.
Bizarre.
I find that weird.
Do you
Because normally I wouldn't have assumed that it would have been corrupted drivers had I seen like the screen mucked up like that.
What
my
would
thought,
you have seen?
Well, my thought would have been, oh, my card's dead.
Well, it might actually
It might be.
doing that as well as corrupting the drivers.
I find it weird that you can replace the drivers and then they come out okay. That's so odd. It's driver corruption. That's just weird.
It is a bit strange.
Unless
Unless you've got some like really aggressive virus that's
That seems fairly unlikely.
yeah.
I guess you googled this shit.
Well, as much as I could. I mean, there's no...
You've been on forums all week.
not that much. There's not really much you can... That's always the problem for searching for things like corruption, because it's like it's too
Mafia.
generic.
The government corruption comes up.
No, I mean,
These corporate
like
bastards.
graphical corruption, because there's just like... There's so many different ways that graphical corruption can happen, and things that people call graphical corruption, which are different types of artifacting and all that kind of stuff. It's virtually impossible to search for the thing that's specifically happening.
these politicians that occasionally have interests in businesses that they may or may not have previously owned and occasionally take money from them that may affect their judgment. Grr.
That was unnecessarily tortured.
It was deliberately tortured, I thought, for comic effect.
But yeah, I downloaded a memory tester for the graphics card memory instead of the RAM.
And
that was all fine, so it's apparently not that.
Okay, that's good. That's one thing.
But then I don't know what else I can actually do. I was looking in event viewer and everything, and the only event in there that appears where it crashes is the graphics driver saying, "Oh shit, I'm corrupted," which is incredibly unhelpful.
Is that what it says?
That's a symptom, not a...
What does it say? I'm corrupted.
Well, it says the graphics driver has detected that it's something corrupted, and then it has the ever classic computer messaging problem where there's obviously someone hasn't filled in a blank somewhere where the sentence just ends with 4 space period.
Right,
obviously there's meant to be 4 something there, but someone forgot to fill in that.
Either that or it was a null reference in there or something.
It's not like a bad sector on your hard drive.
Well,
the drivers just happen to have
that
installed
would be fairly unlikely, but yeah.
That could be it.
But then that wouldn't explain why... I don't think a hard drive thing would explain why it only happens after a certain amount, under load, or I think if the driver was fucked up somehow, it would be fucked up all the time.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that it would go wrong totally randomly, or that. Well, I don't know. I don't really know the nature of how these hard drive failures can do, but I normally assumed a bad sector would be this is a completely unreadable part of your disk. Not that, I've just written to it, maybe it's okay for a bit. I don't know if, the magnetism in that part of the drive...
Well, that seems more like it would be a RAM thing than a hard disk thing, because that could be...
Well, possibly, yeah, because it could, the drivers presumably have to get loaded into RAM.
Yeah.
And then something corrupts them. But then that could be any software on your system that just happens to be somehow addressing the wrong memory.
Nothing's changed. That's the problem. That's why I think it must be something hardware, because I wasn't doing anything different from what I'd been doing up to that point.
True.
Yeah, well, apart from Guild Wars had patched, and I was like, "Oh, Guild Wars is fucked. It's making me blue screen. It's making my graphics crash. It must be Guild Wars." But then Kernel did it as well. I was like, "Oh, well, okay then. I guess it's not."
And I'm sort of. I think next step must be. You can't be far away from complete reboot of the system, reinstall Windows and...
No, that's... The next step is I'm going to run a regular RAM memory test just to make sure that's not the problem. Because apparently, according to the NVIDIA control panel, it reserves a certain amount of RAM for, overflow graphical things. Regular RAM.
Well, that's interesting.
Which seems weird, but I guess
That does seem weird.
Maybe it's more for physics or something.
It won't be doing that all the time.
Imagine that's really weird to the graphics card pages out to normal RAM, and then normal RAM pages out to the hard disk. It's really bizarre.
It's a bit bonkers.
I guess
that's
kind of
how it used to work, isn't it? Because the memory on board a graphics card is only supposed to be used for really high frequency access stuff, a common texture.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
But I don't think I think the only option is to well, I don't know. I don't think reformatting the system is going to solve this problem. It doesn't seem like something that would be that problem unless it is a hard disk thing. So I guess I'll have to do a disk check as well.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it goes, I guess.
And then if it still carries on happening,
You've got a fallback shitty card you could put in.
No, I don't think I do. That's the problem.
But don't you have an i7?
Yeah.
So you've got graphics built into your processor, so you can just plug in.
Shitty one.
Yeah, shitty enough to reuse the internet and still use PC.
If you'd have told me earlier, actually, I could have. My 275's not in use. My old NVIDIA 275. I mean, it's not the most powerful card in the world, but it's it would be a test.
Well, it's the other problem with this. The other problem with this kind of thing is the other classic problem of computer diagnosis is it doesn't happen frequently enough to actually you change something and then you have to wait several days and hope that it replicates itself.
Yeah, that's really irritating.
Yeah, that's my repo steps.
So I'm just going to have to hang around and see if it gets worse or if it stays the same and run these other checks, and then if it... I don't know, maybe I'll just buy a new graphics card. I'm probably due.
What are you running at the moment?
470.
Oh, no, you're fine. 470 is pretty.
It's pretty good. It's not fucking amazing.
You get a Titan. I saw there the sort of cut down, actually, non-insane Titan is going on sale. The 790 or something.
I think they announced 780 this week. Yeah.
Anyway, whatever it was, it's still like 600 quid or something. 550, something like that.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's crazy money.
It looks like you can overclock it, so it's practically faster than the Titan. So yeah.
I'm running. I forget what I bought now. It was a 680, I think, the one I'm running at the moment. But
we're going to talk about the Xbox, but the more I hear about, I mean, the PS4 is tempting, but where I'm at with games at the moment, it hinges on GTA 5, I think. But basically, I'm thinking I might, at the end of this year, I might spend the money on a graphics card rather than a console.
Yeah, I know. It's like it's one of we've talked about this briefly before, but it's one of the things about the two systems having a PC-like architecture.
Yeah.
Is that surely the PC ports that could come out of it will be pretty hard.
I think
the only thing that you're going to still have a problem with is that Microsoft and Sony obviously have a pretty strong catalogue of exclusives. Each.
That's true. And the other thing with the port situation is that it's this 8 gigs of super fast memory on the PS4 that the PC might have trouble with.
But to be honest, if they're going to be like those sort of the people that are going to make games like that aren't going to be the exclusives, therefore they're going to have to be dealing with the Xbox's 8 gigs of regular RAM.
Well, it's DDR3, but it's still graphics RAM.
Yeah, but it's DDR3. There's not going to be a crazy amount of speed difference talking to the DDR3 on your PC bus. I mean, there will be a difference, like the speed of addressing and all that will be different, but
that's true.
And variable. But I don't think that's going to make too much difference.
Okay.
I think multi-platform games are going to be architected. You're going to have to architect like multi-platform games potentially to target, the lowest system specs of the three, which will be the Xbox One. Arguably.
That's true.
But they're all so tight, I don't really think it's going to matter.
All I'm saying is I think if you're going to buy a graphics card for a PC, you want as much graphics memory as you can, just in case they start really utilising that in the consoles.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm running... My PC at home has 6 at the moment. And
6 gigs
of RAM. Just general RAM.
Oh, general RAM.
My card is a gig, so it's...
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the discrepancy I'm worried about.
That's what I'll be fine, I reckon. I don't reckon it's going to be a problem. Not for a while, anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's what you have to worry about, isn't it? Though, is the while in the future. But you just bought yours.
Or you just put new RAM. RAM is an incredibly upgradable thing.
So well, RAM is, but graphics card RAM isn't. That's the thing.
I don't think it's going to cause enough of a rift because one platform having ridiculous RAM in it isn't going to change the whole spectrum of gaming.
Yeah.
Not until the next generation.
Yeah.
When everyone catches up.
Yeah, potentially true. Yeah. Okay, we'll see how we go.
I was trying to think of like when my graphics card, like whether I'd get an upgrade or not. I was trying to remember back to my previous PC and like how long I'd had that before I changed its graphics card.
Yeah.
Can't really remember. I was like, that computer lasted 7 years, or rather just the motherboard. Everything else got changed.
It's still good. It's got the same heart.
Yep, basically.
Did the processor change as well?
No.
Okay, yeah, so it's definitely got the same heart.
Yeah. But I must have changed that graphics card I guess halfway through its life, which was about 3.5 years, I guess. So, I'm about due, surely.
I think that's pretty
I'm making excuses for buying a new graphics card.
No, I think that's pretty common, isn't it? Last few PCs I've had, it's always been like halfway through their lifespan. I've had to upgrade them at some point, which is worrying. That means I'm halfway through the lifespan of my current machine. Oh no!
You've already just upgraded it.
Start saving now.
I think if I get a new card at the end of the year, it'll be 3 years. I think that's reasonable, isn't it?
Yeah, my computer must just be coming up to 3 years now.
My graphics card is fine on Bioshock, although, like I say, it's starting to chug in later sections, but I've been pleasantly surprised by how well it's held up.
And it looked fine running Far Cry. I mean, what's your one?
Yeah. It's a...
400 series? Or
5870.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's... Oh, it's a Radeon, sorry.
Radeon. It's a Radeon.
Okay, I don't know Radeon.
I don't know what the equivalent is, GTX 6 something. I can't remember.
I was about to say it's a 600 series, and that's pretty meaty. If it's the equivalent of those, because as I say, if they're only just doing the 700 series of...
Oh, perhaps not. Cards. I don't know what the equivalent is. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I don't know. As I say, don't know Radians, but... Also, yeah, no,
Well, the thing was with Radians is that the generation after the 5000 series, they kind of rejigged what the numbers meant. So the equivalent 6870 was actually slower than the 5870, but it was also a lot cheaper. So it wasn't like they were trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. Because they weren't. Yeah.
At least that's the one thing you can sort of rely on with graphics cards, isn't it? Follow the money.
Yeah.
If it's more expensive, it's generally better.
Exactly, it's the money.
The thing that will annoy me about doing anything to my computer is I'll be disturbing the perfectly preserved insides of my computer, because it's not like I built it. It was, I ordered it and then they built it. So it's all nice and like all the cables are properly coiled up out of the way, and then I'd be shoving shit in there. It's everyone's favourite part.
No problem for the graphics card. All you need to do is unplug it's just a power bit for the
I don't know.
Well, it's not, because it's got extra various bits.
You need those PCIe.
It's got like a power cable and there's sort of like PCIe things stuck on the side.
Yeah, the PCIe power is the...
That's it, isn't it? Just the power.
Well,
and
it
it's also
depends.
a fucking giant block. That's the weird thing about the modern graphics cards, is now they have all that plastic encasing around them.
Yeah.
You can't see the circuits any longer.
Well, the heat sinking.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it's just like that. That's when I was looking in there, because I was like, maybe it's overheating. So I went in there to dust everything. Hoover it all out. And I was like, you can't really tell any longer, because if there's dust in it, it's inside in the vents or whatever that go through the plastic coating.
But that's why they put the plastic on, so it shouldn't really get there.
Yeah, but it's a totally open fan vent. Of course it's going to get there.
You might be able to attach those.
Yeah, you could take off the plastic.
Yeah, but then I probably... That would require me removing the whole graphics card, because it's on the bottom of it, of course.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd have to take it all the way out and then pull...
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't be able to do it in place. You definitely have to take it apart.
So, yeah.
Take it out of your system. It is crazy how much of a difference that will make. I did, when I hoovered out my CPU fan not that long ago, the drop in temperature I noticed was significant. Really significant.
Yeah, it does make a big difference.
The main problem with my system is
it's the airflow. That's what it blocks.
Yeah.
Not very much dust gets inside, because all the vents have all the vents that have fans behind them have really fine mesh
filters.
in front of them. But then that means what dust does get in there is incredibly tiny dust, so it coats everything really.
It creates those giant grey clumps, doesn't it?
It's either giant grey clumps or a perfectly even layer. And it's like, that's the worst stuff to deal with, because you can't really just hoover it off, because it compacts itself and sticks to everything. It's not as easy to get rid of.
You just need that. You have to be careful with it, but the compressed air.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
That's what I use.
Fun.
Yeah, it's a good. Some time. Well, especially if you're standing on the wrong side of it when you blow it.
Yeah,
really fun.
It's really fucking cold. That stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I had good times with that. I remember trying to resurrect the mother laptop by at times just sticking because you get those little plastic hose pipes, don't you? My cat really loves. It has to be said.
Yeah.
The cat just loves playing with that thing. But anyway, you just try to stick it as far into my laptop vents as I could.
Sounds like a really good idea.
It's a little laser. Oh, it's genius.
That will fuck up your fan motors. That will. That's how
Yeah,
I broke my last power supply.
And it should, even if it's off.
Yeah, if you spin the fan motor with that, even when it's depowered, because it's still got the magnets in it, it creates charge in the circuits, and then that can fuck up the actual motor. That's how I broke my last power supply. I hoovered it too vigorously, it span, and then when I turned it back on, it didn't spin as well any longer.
Weird.
That's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense, sort of.
Yeah.
Sort of. I've never had that happen. And I hoovered the shit out of that laptop fan.
I mean, it makes sense that it would generate current. What problems that current could cause, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It might also just loosen the bearing as well.
Maybe. Well, if it spins faster than I suppose if it spins faster than it's supposed to, there will come a point, I guess, where you're probably going to do some damage. But
there's some things that they say not to do that I do anyway. Like I always use my crosshead Phillips head screwdriver that has a magnetic tip, which is handy for
Oh,
but
yeah,
you're not supposed to
no,
because
really not.
it's meant to like induce currents and stuff. But I've literally never had a problem, and it's so more useful not to freaking drop the screws into the case.
That's so annoying when you do that, isn't it? Like it just goes funny.
It's
like
so I just use.
It's probably
the
fine if you're
tip
careful and you don't like wave the screwdriver in the general direction of your hard drives.
Yeah, I don't do that, but it's like on the motherboard, like you induce little currents in around the circuits and stuff. But I'm like, fuck it, I don't care.
I think it's
worth it.
I think it's difficult to do. Like, I can see that there is a risk there. You're really not supposed to, but yeah,
it's not exactly the strongest magnet.
I've never heard of it causing a problem. I've never come across anyone who's managed to break their system doing that.
Yeah,
they should just make this like special disposable screwdriver tips that are just like coated in post-it notes.
Oh right, that really gummy stuff. Yeah,
but that would be really cool actually.
Maybe, I don't know. To think of something.
The screws might end up with the inside, the divots in the screw end up with a layer of gum.
Well, it wouldn't be that sticky. It would just be like enough to, because it's not like the magnets on those magnetic screwdrivers are very strong either. Like you can easily be like whoop, whoop, and then just have it fall off.
Yeah, but it's just a little bit of resistance. Yeah, I don't rely on it, but it's handy.
It's just like just generally working inside a PC case is pretty awkward.
Yeah,
mainly because there's always something in there where it's just like, what order did they put this in that this screw was accessible at some point? Because now it's at some weird impossible angle where you have to like go through your graphics card to actually twist it.
Well, you see, when I was fitting my my graphics card this time, I actually couldn't get it into the case. I had the problem was my PC case has this line of like a plastic bit, so. Where you would normally screw the cards into place.
Yeah.
The idea being that instead of screwing them into place, you can just push this catch on this plastic thing and it will hold it in place by covering where it needs to be. Except for the fact that, of course, that this thing creates a barrier between you and the actual where the card would naturally sit.
Right.
And because the graphics card is so long, I couldn't angle it in such a way that it could safely get behind the motherboards, because they have that little sticky out metal bit that has to rest alongside the edge of the motherboard.
Yeah.
So that went in the right place, whilst getting the now really quite chunky block of metal that needs to like slot into that bit where you're supposed to screw it in. So it all lined up in the right place. So in the end, I had to figure out how to unscrew that plastic bit and just took it off, because it's like then put it in and fastened it the old way. It's like my case is trying to be helpful, but it's just made things really hard.
Yep.
I think it seems like cases have come along. I really like my old case, but it's quite old now. But they seem to have come on quite a long way. Like they're really expensive, but like the Corsair designs are freaking insane.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. I wish like they'd got better and the pricing structure had sort of the good cases had become the norm, so that they weren't so crazy expensive. Because my one's okay. It has some niceties over the last one I got, and it was about the same price as the last one I got. And it's, like for instance, I don't have to screw my hard drives in place because there's like a nice plastic catch for doing it instead, which is quite useful. It's still not very good at managing cables, and then it still has the traditional power supply up the top design.
Yeah,
which some are ditching now, isn't it? It's like
it's unusual now. Yeah, most of them have them at the bottom now. Some of them have them like the crazy Corsair one has it in like a different like airflow section, so it's not even in the same.
I just struggle that unless you get a really really big case now, you're just always going to get lost in cables.
Yeah,
it's a real pain in the arse, like trying to feed the cables around the graphics card.
Yeah,
because the graphics card sort of just basically butts onto the back of my hard drives, which isn't ideal. But I don't really have a choice. That's where it has to sit in that case. So all the cables coming out of the hard drives are against the PCIe cables of the thing. And then there's like the IDE cable comes roughly around there as well for where...
You have an IDE cable?
Yeah, there's an IDE cable in there.
For what?
I think my DVD drive is still IDE.
Oh, right. Okay. Ancient.
I can't remember if I'm wrong on that. Oh, I might have just left it in there in case I wanted to plug something in.
Right, yeah, fair enough.
It's like, I'm never going to be able to get at this socket before. Let's just put a cable there.
Yeah, just keep a cable loose in there. It's just attached.
Actually, that probably is it.
Yeah, probably. That's a good idea, actually. I think motherboards still come with IDE.
Yeah, they do.
For some reason.
They're still... Well, because I suppose I've got caddies now for my hard drives that are IDE drives, but
So you can just USB it.
yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe PC design needs to have a slight shake-up. But then the problem with doing that is then all of a sudden people need to start building all of their components to this new design. And it's sort of. I remember. Do you remember like Mini ATX? I suppose was trying to do that, weren't they? Like to say, hey, let's rationalize some of this. Let's get rid of what we don't need and make everything smaller and neater. And yeah, that never really took off.
Well, you get home theatre PCs are built with
kind of.
What are they made? Just Mini ATX or something?
Sort of, yeah. But it never quite became the game changer. I think they'd intended.
Yeah. No.
They have a use. I'm not disputing that, but it's
not quite. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember being hopeful that it's just like, just imagine if all our PCs were smaller. It's one of the weird things, isn't it? I guess about tech, isn't it? Like PCs, we're still used to just having these ridiculously chunky boxes.
Giant boxes. Although, looking at inside mine, like it used to be, mostly empty space inside my PC box. Now my cooler is so fucking massive that it's like mostly full of stuff.
Yeah, you do have that crazy cooler. And mine is mostly empty space, but apart from where the graphics card sits, but.
Yeah, depends what you want, I suppose. That Corsair case is super cool though because it's got like a whole side area for cables, so all the cables go through these little grommets and like all go behind. So when you look inside, it's like all clean and they're coming out of these little rubber hole type things.
That's kind of neat. Yeah, it actually kind of keeps them in the right place, I suppose.
Yeah,
when you need to move.
They're
the
kind
rest
of behind
of them around.
the board.
Yeah,
it's quite nice.
Does mean you have to have both sides open if you want to actually rewire anything.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a bitch to set up, but it's still pretty cool.
So XBONE.
Woo!
What shortening are we going for?
XBONE.
XBONE has now established itself.
Yep. I'm quite happy with that. That was my kind of favourite one of the lot. Like,
what are the alternatives?
Well, the Jeff Gerstmann's description was the zone. Just drop the B. So it's the XONE. And
that's too cool sounding.
Yeah, I know. Perhaps they should have just called it that, the zone. But then it sounds a bit like the Zune, and they perhaps didn't want to be associated with that marketing-wise.
And like the old Microsoft Zone.
Oh yeah, MSN Zone. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Zone.
I suppose they want us to call it
XBONE. Could you just call it?
That's not how that's spelled.
I know, but pronounce it like that. XBONE.
Do they want it so that because everyone calls the 360 the 360? So are they thinking that we're going to start calling it the One? Like
no, that's not going to happen. It's not like people call the Wii the U, do they? They call it they actually just call it the Wii U. But
that's true, but that's short.
Well, that's also because it's actually kind of important to distinguish that quite a lot.
Well, I know, but if you were just calling it the U, then
that would be really confusing in conversation.
Hey, U, what do you think of the U? Are you going to go on the U now?
I don't know. We would bad enough. But yeah,
I guess that is sort of the same. But
no, we're going to play on the Wii. But don't you want a U? No, we want a Wii.
But people have been dropping Xbox from 360, which was quite convenient. Everyone knew what you meant when you said the game on 360. Now it's going to be on
the Xbox. Yeah.
On Xbox.
On Xbox. Yeah, that'd be fine. I'm okay with people calling it Xbox.
That's not clear if it's on the new one or the old one.
Yeah, but that will happen eventually.
Yeah,
but the question is, by that point, how used will everyone be to? How used? That was a great sentence. How much will people already be used to calling it the XBONE before the 360 goes away enough that you can just go back to calling it the Xbox?
I'm more annoyed about the fact that we can't now call the original Xbox the Xbox One. Like, out of convenience. Like, we have to now refer to it as original Xbox, like, specifically.
Yeah.
The old Xbox.
We had that discussion a couple of weeks ago about, Apple marketing and how you have to, like, be really weirdly specific about the gens and it becomes confusing. But at least here there is actually a name difference still.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you've still got to be that little bit careful. It's the original Xbox.
Well, you could always...
Or are people just going to start calling this Xbox 3?
But then that's like Xbox 360, only 60 less.
Yeah.
Or 60 and 100 less.
Do you think it's a bad name?
Well, I don't know. I sort
Well,
of...
it goes against the classic theory of why the PS3 was still the PS3, where it's like, the numbers go up.
Yeah. It's like...
So now you've gone like up to 360 and then down to 1.
It's like I know what they were trying to do because it does kind of fit with what they were trying to pitch at the god-awful reveal.
That was the idea.
But, and this is the problem, it's not genuine. The concept is flawed because it's actually just a lie. The Xbox One. All right, so how are we going to get this to work with your TV solution? Oh, well, you still need your cable box. All right, so this is the Xbox 2. And it's like, oh, well, but, we haven't put a massive hard drive in there. So what happens if I run out of space? Well, you can plug extra hard drives in. 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, they could...
The one box to rule them all theory actually doesn't really work.
There's no way they could do anything about the cable box situation because every fucking cable company has a box and they have their own proprietary delivery method or whatever.
That's the thing. I'm surprised they did this whole TV cable box link up thing because surely the future is internet TV.
Well, yeah, here we go. This is the thing.
This is the big thing.
But going back to the name though, before we get into that, one is okay. Actually, it is one to rule them all, isn't it? Rather than one to do everything. It controls everything. That's their pitch. And they want everyone to consume all their media through something Microsoft branded that they have control over.
Even though it's not really through it. It's just literally through it.
It's literally through it. But they can listen while you're watching things through it and control what's going on. They can bring up things on the fucking screen if they want.
Call it the Overlord.
Yeah, it's the Xbox Overlord. Well, that's effectively what they're saying, isn't it? Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. Let's get into it. It's weirdly backwards.
Yeah,
and it's
for starters, this is possibly the worst console reveal I think I've ever seen.
I don't know. PS3 was pretty hilariously terrible.
But at least they showed stuff that you were kind of interested in.
That's true.
Everything that they sort of pitched at, at least half the show was television focused. Let's be honest, and that half of the television focus is
completely irrelevant to us because it will never happen.
Well, yeah, it's unlikely to happen in the UK because of the companies we have.
Yeah,
and it's unlikely to. Well, it's unlikely to work in the way that they've advertised. Anyway, let's put it that way. It's unlikely to take off in that big a way, I think, unless they do factor it in with internet television techniques. If, for instance, I could put iPlayer on it, and the speech of Kinect lets me say, "Hey, I want to watch BBC One now," and iPlayer knows to take over that and go to BBC One live.
What, rather than as opposed to plugging a Skybox in and having that switch to BBC One?
Well, yeah,
that's what they're envisaging, isn't it?
I know, but Sky, where I was going with that, I guess when I said because of the companies we have in this country, Sky don't let you do fucking anything without paying more for it.
Right.
So, I have Sky. I have a Sky subscription. They added on-demand stuff to the Sky box, which at first was called Anytime Plus, and in order to get that, you needed to be a Sky and Sky Broadband customer.
Right.
They've now since released those restrictions, so you can get some programming for on demand through the box, which is quite nice. And they've now opened up, the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, and all that stuff now have catch-up apps on the Sky box, which is really cool. However, as soon as you get into the domain of using anything on a box that isn't your Sky box, you're in for a world of hurt. There's a free service called Sky Go, which is shit, because it basically means you can put stuff on a device. You can fire up a device like an iPad and stuff like that, and then a very limited selection of Sky stuff can be watched through there. I mean, you don't get any of the terrestrial channels through it. It's only Sky's own channels, which you can watch live through this thing. If you want to watch on-demand stuff on a device like this, you have an incredibly limited selection, and some of it you still have to pay for in a rental sort of agreement to get. And it's like, this is bullshit. I get more value from an on-demand service for free from the terrestrial channels. Yeah. And it's like, I don't get this. You have to pay an additional £5 a month to gain access to those things rent-free. And it's like, I'm already paying for this shit. So, I went as out of curiosity, fired up the Xbox and fired up the Sky app on the 360.
Is that even worse than the iPad?
It follows all the same rules and is just a pile of crap. But you can't watch stuff in HD over Sky's internet services.
But that's just it. coming back to the Xbox, it's like you were saying you can't. They restrict you unless you're using their Skybox. But with the Xbox One, that's the idea, isn't it?
But would it?
You will be using the Skybox.
No. But would it? Because does the Skybox support control messages over HDMI?
That's the question.
No. Is the Skybox going to? Is there? Am I literally going to be able to say something to the Xbox and it be able to tell the Skybox to work fine, or is it when I just say to the Xbox switch to TV that it's just going to act as an HDMI switcher?
I think, their demo is it can control the cable box over HDMI, and apparently the fallback is IR Blaster tech. The classic.
I saw that, yeah.
It's literally got a port in it.
It's so dumb.
It's dumb, but that would work.
It would work.
Right? So you could say, watch BBC One, and it would switch your Skybox to BBC
But
One.
this all sounds like the vagueness and weirdness of all of this sounds like it should be some ridiculous bit of tech that some rich guy perhaps puts into their entertainment system to solve a problem that isn't really
one has.
big a problem.
That was the main thing. They were like, "Who? It's such a pain switching sources on your TV. Who wants to do that?" When
maybe 5-10 years ago, I might have agreed with them because the menus on televisions weren't great. The menu on my television isn't great, my Samsung, but they've got so much better in the last few years, just being able to switch between which HDMI port you're using. Even the LG TVs that are 5 years old, something like that, when you want to switch source, they put a massive menu on screen where the boxes are about the size of my open hand that say, "Hey, do you want to go to this input?" And I'm like, "Yes." It's that solved the problem which they're trying to address.
To be honest with you, if I was a TV manufacturer and I was making a remote in this day and age, I would have a freaking button for each bloody source. I mean,
maybe, yeah.
You could even dispense with the freaking numbers if necessary.
A lot of TV companies do Bluetooth apps now for not Bluetooth. So it probably is Bluetooth, but they do apps for your phone.
Right,
so you can just control them more directly through
that's okay
for an app on your phone.
But I guess the idea with the Xbox is you don't need a remote at all. But it seems to me that even if you could control your Skybox through the Xbox One, I don't think Sky would like the way that Xbox One will provide you a full program guide in Microsoft Metro Vision, and completely bypass their guides and their whole...
I think they've obviously wangled a really good deal with Comcast to let them to do that stuff. Normally, it's because
that's probably just another feature that won't appear in any other country apart from the US.
Well,
there's no way Microsoft's going to pull down all the programming information for every.
That's their plan. That's what they're claiming.
For every country.
This is the thing. I can't trust any of that until we know exactly what's happening. Because all we saw, the only allusion that we have to. That's the wrong word. The only clue that we have that they're going to work with Sky.
That was the right word, wasn't it? Allusion.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's the right word.
I don't know. The only clue that we have is that when they were saying all of the content providers that they've partnered with, and there was that wall of logos came up. Sky was on there.
Well, yeah.
But then there were things like Hulu and all these other. Most of them are American brands and stuff like that, but. How are they going to work? Are they just going to be apps that you put on the one that the Kinect is capable of you voice controlling? Cause to be honest, if it does that, then fine. If I have the ability to jump to an app really quickly that can deliver my television through the internet, then actually all of this stuff with cable boxes and stuff like that will hopefully just become irrelevant in time.
That's the thing. But that's what they didn't talk about. That's what we wanted. Yeah. I mean...
I want to be able to just jump... Well, they did sort of say movie, but it's presumably that was playing movies through the Xbox's built-in movie player. Yeah. It's what I want to know is can I do that if I have a Netflix account? Can I jump to my film in Netflix?
I mean, apparently the Netflix app for the Xbox, at least in America, is pretty good, and a lot of people use it. But whether it'll be fully integrated in that way, I don't know. But
it's not sure people still say the PlayStation version is where it's at.
It's better, right? Okay, because it's just that's just it, isn't it? Who gives a shit about live TV anymore?
Oh no! Don't get me wrong. I like live TV. I still have it. I don't watch much of it, but I like the fact that.
You can
when something big is on.
Yeah, that's true.
Having live TV, or at least the ability to watch it when I want to, it has weight. I like
Yeah,
it.
sure.
You know? Like when the
Okay.
Olympics was on, nothing compares to watching that on the live broadcast.
Well, that was
or
pretty good.
Eurovision to a lesser extent, quite.
Yeah. To be fair though, with the Olympics, the
They
live,
did a whole shit ton of it, didn't
the
they?
internet live broadcast was so well done. It was freaking incredible. You could watch anything. Although, absolutely, probably the BBC One commentary probably had.
The best commentators. They saved them for the.
Well, yeah, and a lot of the secondary streams weren't HD unless you were on Sky, because those Sky had they had 10 extra HD channels assigned to the Olympics.
You could watch the secondary streams in HD on the website broadcast, though, couldn't you? I think they were HD. I watched a lot of it.
So I had trouble with that. I think.
Right.
I couldn't remember finding the option. I did
try.
try.
Okay. Maybe it was just
some
standard def.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it had the option. That tech was really good. But yeah.
Yeah, the effort they went to for the Olympics was bonkers. Hella impressive.
Super awesome. But yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I just think it's weird that they're chasing this concept that is incredibly difficult to broker and will just eventually become irrelevant.
Yeah,
it's like,
almost straight away.
So if they do partner with Sky right now, what about Virgin Media customers?
Yeah.
They're going to be shit out of luck. What about YouView, which is rapidly growing at the moment? It's like surely they have to integrate with that as well somehow. It's like all they've done is given themselves a monumental task.
Everyone in enterprise software knows it's all about the integration.
Yeah, and they've just given themselves the biggest integration job in entertainment.
It's freaking crazy.
It's like, no, sorry, I don't buy it. I think it's...
And it's like, live TV, I mean, it's cool to have and stuff, but it is definitely... I mean, there's been some fascinating numbers from, but Google are basically doing an experiment with their Google Fiber, where they could take a small town in America and give them almost free, fastest internet in the world. It was Kansas City, I think.
Yeah.
They have this insane, and then they watch the numbers, and you can see that they don't watch. They watch Netflix all the time now. All those people, and they don't watch so much.
The network telly is going away.
It's going way down. Yeah.
It is really interesting because I'll be honest, I spend most of my Sky usage is record something off Sky, go back and watch it later.
Yeah.
So the majority of my use is essentially an on-demand style of watching things. It is more convenient. It is the future. It's just how it is. But I don't think you can ever get away from the need for there to be live TV.
Fair enough.
I think we're a very long way away from there. Not just technologically, but kind of culturally as well, of that becoming
absolutely, because it is absolutely ingrained in the culture, the telly, as it were.
Live stuff. You want to be there when it happens. There is a thing that you can't quite put your finger on, I suppose. There is it creates moments.
So now that we've talked for half an hour about something that's completely irrelevant to us, should we actually move on to the rest of the vlog?
It's not irrelevant to Rob, is it?
It is, because it's not going to happen.
To be honest, we only spent 10 minutes talking TV. The rest of it was all the other crap.
So during the presentation, I mean, that was the first thing they kind of showed was the insane, quite impressive speed at which you could switch between these functions.
And for as much as that might be actually real.
That's definitely going to be real. But the question is...
the thing happening is going to be real, but whether it will be that fast.
I reckon it will be. Because that's what they've put all this work into, because they've got that whole operating system. Basically, you've got Windows running in 2 gigs worth of the freaking RAM in order to run all these apps and stuff and switch between them quickly.
You've got to take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt that it is the initial demo.
Yeah, sure.
Because the initial Kinect demos, look at the underside of the Avatar's shoe. Apart from that, most of the initial Kinect demos ended up looking quite a lot better than
reality,
than how it actually performs.
And that demo he did was, I just thought it was really dumb, though, where it's like, now I'm going to do something in the menu. Now I have to walk 3 steps to the left, so I'm standing in front of the theoretical Kinect sensor, if it's even there, or whether this is just
a demo. Well, at least he did do that, because it adds some level of genuine...
Yeah, but why you keep walking backwards and forwards all the time? Just stay there.
Because he's not...
Because then when he gestured, it might have fucked everything up.
Well, I did notice that. All of the Microsoft speakers were very pace left 2 steps, pace right 2 steps, rinse and repeat. Put your hands out like you're holding a football.
It's because they're not natural presenters and they've had media training, and that's what they've been told to do.
Everyone does that,
Yeah, so if you're not just a natural like a speaker who does it all the time, it's always on stage, like an actor or something, then that's just the way they look.
Yeah, it was very...
It looks
very robotic.
It doesn't look natural, but it looks better than it would have done if they hadn't had any media training at all.
It was the lady that was doing the presentation about the Halo TV
the water
show.
cooler lady.
Yeah, the water
it's like
lady,
it dispenses fresh, clean water. Fantastic! It's what I always wanted in a console.
I don't need to go to the kitchen for a drink anymore. I can just ask my console for a drink, and it dispenses it to my face.
Xbox water. See ya. That was, that's what it is.
A giant robotic arm comes out of the ceiling and just hooks me up to a water IV or something.
Oh, I don't know. That's one thing they were saying on Reddit was simply that Steam is totally screwed because it won't let you watch TV on your TV. You can't tell it to go home, and it's not a water cooler. God damn it.
That stuff is pretty dumb. I mean, at least they did show more of the interface in action. I think the biggest, if you know what I mean, more than... I mean, I know it's hard to compare to the PlayStation thing because, it was in comparatively really early days.
They didn't really show that much of, like, normal live stuff, like avatars and, like...
No, avatars didn't exist, which was interesting.
Or like... I don't know, managing all the general stuff.
They showed the old blades, and they were like, "Look at this new shit." Oh wait, no, we're not looking at that new shit. Here's a video.
But no one ever shows you how you're going to manage the console, do they?
No, I suppose
they don't go. Oh, right, here's how you delete the information about a specific Halo save.
They didn't really show the homepage though, or anything.
The dash,
because I mean,
well, they showed the like giant. Here's what you were last playing. Click here to continue, which is really cool.
The last 3 apps you were using before that as well, and that sort of personalised right bar as well.
But I mean, that's about as much as Sony showed, only I guess in the Sony's case it was just a screenshot rather than live.
Yeah.
They showed with the cheesy guy.
The only thing we have to go on is that they said, here's the familiar interface that you know and love.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, hang on, does that mean it's still covered in ads?
Does that mean it's still shitty?
Yeah, does that mean it's still covered in adverts whenever I browse away from... At least the home screen is a bit more in the direction of what I was sort of... what I've always complained about, it being that when I turn the console on, the primary thing I want to do is consume my content.
Yeah, but there's no proof that that's actually what your home screen's going to look like. That might have been this is the no ads version because there aren't no ads yet. That was also a great focus.
True, but it's like... It was just that phrasing that made me worry a little bit.
Yeah, because if they think their old interface is something that people like, then what the fuck are they doing?
Like, the NXE was definitely the best Xbox Dash,
definitely.
in my opinion.
So I don't really have a problem with the layout of the new one. It's just that I just wish it didn't have adverts in there, and that when I browse to
Today's a good day for words.
What the fuck?
Go, bro,
when I browsed a
broving.
game, for instance, that it would it would present them to me a bit like the apps on a phone does, where it just goes, I'll go to a game section, there's the games apps that I have, and then one of those would be the option to... Actually, Windows 8 does this really quite well, I think, because the things you have in your start screen is stuff you have, stuff you can use, and then there's, if you want other stuff, you go to Windows Store, and then you enter the world of advertising and app searching and stuff like that. What exactly is wrong with that model?
Well, maybe we don't know they're not doing
insufficient
that.
advertising.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that model? Everyone wants more advertising.
I think a lot of people have been sort of hinting, like from what I've been heard, the word is that perhaps Microsoft is under a lot of pressure from publishers this season round, because the 360 is kind of arguably the most successful console of the three this generation. It feels like it's one. Just, yeah. But it does have. So I wonder if, this comes into the used game argument and all that stuff as well, which we'll get onto perhaps in a bit. But whether Microsoft has felt like it's been pressurized by its providers or the people that it works with, perhaps to compromise on some of its design decisions, to say, hey, we need to... EA sort of goes, hey, we want to put Battlefield 3 on your home screen. How much is that going to cost us? And Microsoft's like, don't leave me.
Though? If they're the winners, why should they be the ones under pressure? They should be able to dictate to the publishers.
Well, maybe that's why maybe the publishers think that it's...
It's because the biggest publishers that make the biggest games on the biggest console, they're obviously more demanding. It's like the lesser companies that do stuff on other places. Like anyone that works with Nintendo are just like, thank God we've still got Nintendo to put our shitty games out.
Sadly, it's true.
Maybe they don't. Maybe they care less about other platforms simply that they're like not doing what they want to do.
Interesting.
I don't know. It was just a thought that I thought maybe there's some truth in that.
And then, like, the next bit of the press conference was another bit that was completely irrelevant: sports.
The EA and NFL segments were the shittest things I think I've ever seen in a.
That's just happened before, though, isn't it?
But the NFL thing. How long was that? Was that still? It was like 5 minutes of people saying, "Hey, you're going to have a great experience with this," not telling you what this is.
It wasn't like. It literally wasn't aimed at us at all. It was aimed at an American TV audience, like Homer Simpson. Yeah. That's what that was basically aimed at.
But do you see the? There's been a number of videos about it that come online about Kyle Bosman from Game Trailers, for instance, was saying one of the things he wanted Microsoft to do was to get a thesaurus because they need to stop saying the words content and experience. Which...
No, that's very deliberate. It's NL, neuro-linguistic programming. They say it over and over again to lodge it in your fucking brain.
No, all it does is all it becomes is annoying really quick. And so there's clips on the internet you can go find of that's just them saying content and experience. And it's like, if you think this was a 1 hour show, actually quite a large percentage of the show can be made of just saying the words content and experience.
Yeah.
And then they mean nothing.
They're buzzwords.
Yeah,
they don't mean anything.
But I think we got some nice stuff out of the presentation, but you could condense that into 5 minutes.
So shall we do that?
Yeah, so because the thing is, we got to see the box.
Okay.
I mean, there's something nice
Let's
in being
talk about the cool stuff.
Yeah, cool stuff. I actually think the box looks pretty cool.
I like the box.
It's a bit bigger.
It reminds me of the original Xbox, which I liked.
Yeah.
The giant chunk of... It's basically a home theatre PC.
Yeah.
I like the fact that inside the box there is a giant fan and bigger fans are quieter.
Yes, they seem to have been making... most stuff about their hardware design, at least, all sounds good.
It definitely is less powerful than the PS4, but it won't be noticeable for a long time.
It's a tiny, tiny difference, and it's mostly in the RAM department, and... Well, and as you said earlier, that sort of 2 gigs-ish that's been assigned to the OSs.
It's the overhead of basically Windows, or whatever it is.
Which is going to be bigger than the PS4's operating system, no doubt. Well, with the possible exception of their video encoding side, which may presumably take up a reasonable chunk. You know, the always live.
That's got its own chip, hasn't it?
It depends if that chip is just used for the encoding side and it's actually being stored in RAM. Those kind of questions we don't know. But
yeah, maybe. Don't know where. Yeah.
We don't know. But yeah, so it is going to be very slightly slower than the PS4, but in multi-platform games, it's probably not going to be an issue because they will always build so it works the same.
It'll be interesting to see because during the last generation, it was because the PS3 was so hard to develop for, despite the PS3 being arguably more powerful, it was often the case that the 360 version looked a bit better or ran a bit better. And I think this will be they were quite close. If you look at
there are some the key examples for those was Skyrim, where it had that fatal bug that stopped the PS3 version from running after a while. The Fallout games aren't so hot on PS3. Was it Devil May Cry apparently has frame rate issues on PS3 that it doesn't have on Xbox in a couple of places. I still think that game looked great on PS3, but
Wasn't it GTA 4 was arguably a tiny bit better on PS3? Possibly?
Yeah, that's the opposite. I think GTA was better on PS3.
But there were definitely some fluctuations. I mean, it was because I read those Digital Foundry articles and they do these face-offs and 360 would win quite a to the time. It was interesting.
Final Fantasy 13 was another one in PlayStation's favour. The Xbox port was pretty terrible.
Right, that's interesting. Well, that's probably because they ported from PS3.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that this generation, the PS4 will win out slightly on every multi-platform game, which most people won't care about. But it's quite nice to know that you have the marginally superior version.
Yeah, there is always that feeling, isn't there?
Of course, nowadays it's just the PC version is the massively superior version. But if it's a console multi-platform, like Red Dead, was that on PS3?
Yes.
Then,
that was the one where it ran fine, but had all the PS3 version was the one that suffered from all the mysterious memory swapping glitches.
Oh yeah,
she'd have flying people and
that was awesome.
and important characters being acted by dogs.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Anyway, back to the Xbox One.
So yeah,
Cool.
I quite like the look of it. I like the look of all of the hardware actually.
It's got the grab loader thing.
Yeah, a slot loader.
Slot loader.
That's,
Blu-ray drive.
Neither here or there, but yeah, Blu-ray drive is nice. I thought that was interesting because that's sort of, it's interesting to see that Microsoft kind of conceded in a way that a bit of me was thinking, well, they're just going to go entirely digital, aren't they, with this gen? And it's like, well, no, they still believe in disc-based media, even if they're not going to use them after the install, which leads to the other mildly disappointing fact that the hard drive is only 500 gigs.
Yeah.
It's like I think most people had their money on terabytes all round, like put at least a 1 in there.
Yeah.
We don't know the size of the PS4 one yet, but I would assume it's going to be a 1 terabyte.
Probably 1 terabyte. Also, as far as we know, no capacity for upgrading that hard disk.
No, that's a shitter because the PlayStation got that so right.
Yeah.
In there. Because for most people, they're never going to try it.
No.
They're never going to toy it. So you're really only appealing to a small portion of the populace, I suppose. But for that portion, it was an amazing function. I mean, my brother recently bought a PS3, and that was the first thing he did was going the hard drive that's come with this isn't going to be big enough, so he bought a relatively cheap but bigger laptop hard drive to put it in there. Problem solved.
Yeah, sorted.
Well, that's great.
Do we know if they're doing the same thing for PS4?
We don't know yet. But,
okay, hopefully.
Seriously, that was the best thing, because being locked into the ridiculous proprietary Microsoft hardware, hard drives of the 360 was possibly the worst hardware thing about the 360, apart from the red ring of death.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Only learnt recently that there was the expense of those things was because of NVIDIA licensing. NVIDIA royalties because of the Xbox backwards compatibility features, because that required the use of the hard drive. There was some NVIDIA licensing deal that meant that the hard drives had some of the cost of the hard drive had to go to NVIDIA.
Oh, that's bullshit.
It's weird, isn't it?
Okay, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I only learned that recently. It's like, well, that kind of explains a bit.
Yeah. It's a real shame.
So yeah, and the Kinect for all the weirdness and whether or not it's going to have much gameplay impact or not, the new Kinect does actually look a lot better in terms of its capabilities.
It's a big cube. I mean, cuboid.
No, I mean, it looks fine as a thing. Like, it's probably easier to fit into people's living rooms.
Oh, no, I mean its actual capabilities. Those skeletal demos looked far more accurate than anything we've seen from the old Kinect.
Maybe
1080p. It's got that wide-angle lens, so that your smaller rooms should be okay now.
Yeah,
and taller people.
And from a technological standpoint, the Kinect is still an impressive piece of kit, and it'll be interesting to see if people hit the limitations of the first Kinect quite fast. I think, and it's like now that they've expanded upon that.
Well, I think it's interesting.
How much better can it be?
The fact that you can guarantee that everyone that's got this console has one means you can use it.
Yeah, you can use it. That's a big thing. Yeah. It is a big thing.
It's also terrifying. Like, the bloody thing, you can't... It's always listening, and you literally can't turn on the console without it plugged in.
I think it got revealed a little bit this week that, yes, you need it plugged in order for the console to fire up.
Yeah, but what?
There will be privacy options to let you turn off its monitoring capabilities when the system's not actually out of standby. So you can turn off, like, it's listening, so it doesn't listen to you when you're not using it, that kind of stuff.
I was starting to feel like I need a little foot switch so I can turn it off at the mains when I'm not using it.
Yeah, I'm still dubious about that stuff, but I think for most people it's not a big deal, because really, how much dodgy shit are you going to get up to in your living room?
Yeah, but it's just the idea.
But it's just dumb anyway, because the whole idea of it listens and then you can tell it to turn on when it's off, and that's just... You know what Kinect does at the moment when it's just listening to an empty room? Random shit all the time!
Yeah, there is a worry about that. It gets confused when you're talking sometimes, and will just suddenly move things. But presumably the noise reduction in the microphone array and the improvement in the software could potentially mean it's a bit better understanding who's talking to it.
The whole problem is still the problem of voice recognition, and I don't think it's improved that. I don't think the whole idea of voice recognition has got drastically that much better since the first Kinect to the second one. Like, the old regional accents and all that shit that people still have problems with.
I reckon they may have added restrictions, like they can tell, like, by who's signed in at the moment, that to expect the voice from them when you're sat in front of it.
Well,
Because, it can tie...
I guess, but then it would still have to do... Then you'd have to train it, I suppose.
Well, not really. That was the point in the microphone array, that, the original design of the Kinect was supposed to be that...
Yeah, but it still has to link your voice to a...
No, but it can use... Apparently that was the point in it being an array of microphones, is that it can sort of work out where the sound is coming from. So, therefore, it can tie it to your face.
Maybe.
That was kind of the intention of having such a ridiculous array or several mics in the Kinect. First, it didn't work that well in the original Kinect, but that was the point.
Does that annoy you at all that you won't be using your original Kinect that you bought?
No, not really.
Okay.
I'm happy for an improvement. Let's put it that way.
Cool.
The original Kinect has served its need as much as I wanted it for, really, and I still use it fairly regularly to use that fitness stuff.
Cool.
So for me, the Kinect, I don't have a problem with the old Kinect. It's just really nice to see a big jump.
Yeah.
The more worrying thing, I think, on the Kinect front, because most of the privacy stuff could be solved by having a decent privacy policy, and then they're legally bound to not collect that information for nefarious means.
Unless the FBI tell them to.
Well, yeah, this is where things get more worrying, I guess. But Germany has ruled the Kinect as a monitoring device.
Yeah.
So,
because it is.
But yeah, as opposed to an entertainment device or that kind of categorization of thing. And monitoring devices are technically banned often in Germany, because it's like, they're being sold under a false pretense and that kind of stuff. So there's a chance that Germany could actually tip the scale in how Microsoft has to approach the use of this thing.
That would be interesting. I think they know they've got their PR a bit fucked, especially after the conference. The conference
all the post-conference stuff was totally and utterly messed up.
It was a disaster. I mean, the conference itself it wasn't for us, but it was slick enough, and it kind of did what it set out to do. But everything they've said since has been just so mixed.
No one knows what the answer is, but then they've tried to give an answer. And the problem is people then have taken that as read.
Yeah.
And then, actual fact, if you boil it down and you just sort of threw all of that out of the window, we actually probably know as much about the Xbox, if not a tiny little bit more, than we actually know about PS4. With the exception of the game lineup, which we know a lot more about PlayStation.
That's the one thing that's been annoying me most about seeing all the discussions, is that, everyone goes on about the Xbox used games situation.
It's like, well, actually, we don't know what Sony's is.
No one fucking knows what the PlayStation is. They haven't said yes or no either way. So you can't take that as a counter argument. No, obviously the PlayStation's going to be a good person.
I think both of those are just waiting each other out. I bet they've made it so they could probably handle any one of the rumoured options that have come about, but are just sort of saying, well, who's going to blink first?
They don't have much time to wait it out at this point, especially if it's going to be one of any of the rumours that involve having to actually make more significant deals with retailers, like having GameStop have to phone a serial code or whatever into Microsoft to reactivate a used game. That's going to take a long time to set up. They don't have that long to wait.
I think all of that's going to be bullshit. I think there'll be some activation code that will just be handled by the consoles themselves. I don't think GameStop and other retailers will just need to get involved with that. There'll just be something when you plug in a disc and try and associate it with your live account that it will just go, this belongs to someone else. You can transfer it, but it's going to cost you.
Yeah, but then where did GameStop make the money? That's the whole point of that system.
This is what I mean. This is one of the theories, that there was going to be the fee would be quite small on the Microsoft side, a few dollars, say, to reassign the game, and that's where the money that goes to the publisher. But
people won't have that because it's you're paying twice, and that's the worst possible thing ever.
There's a bit of that. Well, ultimately, this is going to move. This is because Microsoft want to get in on, and presumably everyone wants to get in on the Steam model, where there is no used games. I feel that if they made their digital distribution services or disc-based services, or their activation limitations, it is a step. I don't know quite how to word this. If all of that stuff was still convenient enough, then I don't really have a problem per se with the inability to play used games, maybe, because actually, how much does it really affect us? Not a crazy amount.
Some
I mean,
people-
it is a step back. But
I don't care, but some people only play used games. Like, I know people.
Well, it's not just the used games, because it also overlaps into like borrowing games and sharing games between your friends or whatever.
Which
That's the
you've
other
never-
thing that pisses me off.
Which you're never really supposed to be able to do, like, from a legal standpoint anyway. It's always one of those things that's kind of been in the end user agreements that you're not really supposed to do. But
I don't know about that.
we've never really been stopped.
I mean, like, you think about even movies or whatever, they're always like, not for public showing, and then that's like a really...
That's really vague.
That's a really dodgy definition, because it's like, how many people are you going to fit in your living room before this becomes illegal?
This was one of the rumours that came out. You've touched a nerve there. Apparently, like, there's a... I think it was Netflix or something that sort of hinted that they'll be doing this, that it can, using the Kinect, it will work out how many people are sat in front of it watching a film. And if you've got too many people watching it, it classes it as being outside your agreement and stops you from watching it until you pay a hike. That's nefarious use of Kinect. That's I think where you're hitting some serious bullshit lines. And it's like, because all you're doing at that point is reducing your consumer rights. And it's like you can only go so far with this shit before people will rise up. Essentially, not like in riot stuff.
Rise up,
but
and
you know
break
what I mean?
out the electrical tape and like wrap the Kinect in.
But yeah, there will come a point where people just aren't happy with it, and I think we're rapidly approaching that point.
Yeah, you gotta watch their step.
I mean, I'd be okay, I think, with Microsoft going down the Steam route. You know, you have to buy a game; it has to be associated with yourself.
I don't mind
and
Steam,
there's two
'cause,
big ifs here. If they were competitive with the sale type stuff that Steam did,
That's the key thing.
and degraded prices at a rate that was similar to how retail does it, because that's the biggest problem with digital distribution, is that they don't lower their prices at the same speed as disc-based copies do.
Yeah.
So people still buy the discs, new discs at this reduced price. And secondly, Steam has the massive advantage is that a game you buy on Steam is more likely to stand the test of time and be playable past a console generation.
Exactly.
So, stuff... We've hit a sort of phase in the Windows life cycle that stuff that can run on XP generally runs on 7 and 8 without a problem. Stuff older than that, there was a major architecture change, blah, 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 blah.
Even older stuff, if it's like beloved enough, someone will mod it and make it work.
Good old games will take hold of it. And
System Shock 2 just got released on Steam.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of stuff. There'll always be a way into that stuff. And, either way, even if it doesn't run on Steam, it's pretty much guaranteed it's going to last a lot longer than anything you could buy on a digital platform for a specific console.
I don't know. I mean... Obviously, they've got rid of backwards compatibility now, so...
But yeah, so that means anything I bought on XBLA, if I haven't got it installed... I mean, the worry is when do they turn off the servers? What's their policy for when live goes down, for instance? Do I... they will, like Steam, presumably I can just download it wherever I want, but it's like... what's the policy going to be exactly?
Well, that was just like a bad choice on their end in the early game, because... they didn't think ahead to when that would happen. It's like with Steam, assuming you're still going to be using PCs that are approximately similar to how PCs work, in theory, the idea of installing a piece of software and downloading shit over the internet is going to stay roughly the same. Whereas in the Xbox, it's like this very specific thing that links into a very specific box, and they plan ahead for the idea that the stuff on Xbox Live might still... because it probably would still run on the new Xbox, anything on Xbox Live now, because it's not like... Well, apart from removing
that's not
support.
True.
But then that's their mistake as well, because they made a specific architecture to make stuff work on Xbox Live, and then...
It's the literal architecture of the processor.
Yeah, it's the processor in the 360's Power PC, and they've moved to x86.
You'd have to recompile it if it was X and A for a start.
Yeah. I mean, it's not impossible, but it does mean a re-release.
Well, yeah, but I mean, just like, that could almost be automatic.
No, that's entirely up to the game manufacturer or the game developer and all that stuff to go ahead and do all that stuff themselves.
And they do it if it didn't cost several £100,000 like it does to release patches on Xbox.
This is the other thing that's sort of... It's not been doing the rounds particularly loudly, I think, but that Microsoft is sticking with their
patch policies.
Yeah, the patch policies, the publisher policies, in that you need a publisher in order to get on Xbox, unlike PS4's kind of indie embracing approach, where it's like, you don't need a publisher, just talk to us, we'll get you on there.
Awesome.
And it's like...
PS4 is going to
PlayStation and Sony for a while have definitely been sounding out that they're going to support indie in a good way.
Yeah, but they got who'd they get on Jonathan Blow on stage today? And he was like, "Hey, explosions! I love those, don't I?"
How about a game without those?
Yeah. Oh, super cool. They definitely send a message. Just the fact that they put him on stage doing that presentation sends a really cool message.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You're right in that the Microsoft press wasn't aimed at us, but it just begs the question: why wasn't it aimed at us? People who were watching that thing aren't going to be interested in Xbox for the two. The people who are going to watch a reveal statement about the Xbox are your current customer base.
It's basically, that's exactly true. It's basically the same as the PS3 reveal. Is the key? They were totally different, but the key issue is just arrogance. It's
the Sony one was good because it actually, they were saying, well, it's going to be for gamers, right? So let's do some game stuff. Let's do a lot of game stuff. I
mean the old PS3
Oh, reveal. PS3 one. Yeah, no, you're right. Exactly right. The roles are reversed. At that point, Sony was on top of the world.
They thought that
they could do anything the fuck they wanted.
They thought they had everyone who liked the PS2 in the bag, so they didn't have to even talk to them. Yeah. And that's the thing with Xbox. They think they've got everyone who plays Call of Duty all day. They've got them. They're automatically going to buy the Xbox One, so they don't even need to talk to them. That's what the arrogant feeling. They're like, we'll just go after the people that we haven't got right now. That was
the one thing they did show, wasn't it? Call of Duty.
Yeah, that's true. But you know what I mean? Like, the hardcore gamer, they assumed that they since they'd won the last console generation, they just assumed they had them all in hand.
It's frustrating, because I've been trying to rationalise my feelings towards the two things. I mean, at this point, none of it really holds water, I think, until the E3 conferences happen.
Yeah.
But at this point, I've been trying to rationalise my feelings towards it, because in a weird way, my mind is still saying, yay, Xbox, but I don't really understand why. It's like I've had a certain faith in Microsoft over the last generation, because they did so much right with the 360 that
they did.
Sony kind of didn't do on the PS3.
But maybe it was the state that they were in. Maybe it was because Microsoft knew at the time they were the underdog still, and they had to really smash it, whereas PS3 were like, we're the kings of everything. Yeah. Maybe now those roles are reversed, so has the
maybe Sony realised they're going to have to work for it this time.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe it's the one that's working for it. Maybe they're the ones to come up with the best results every generation.
Yeah, maybe. It sort of worked for Nintendo with the Wii.
Yeah, and like even back to the original PlayStation, they were the ones working for it. Nintendo thought they had it all sorted, and then up comes. They thought they'd killed Sega. Then Sony comes in, works hard, tries to do something new.
Yeah, so it's weird little things like the games I've wanted to play, like the platform exclusives. There's been more platform exclusives that I've been interested in on Xbox over PlayStation. Like, I don't really care about Infamous. I don't really care about Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah.
I don't particularly, as
I agree.
As regarded as those games are, don't really gel with me.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. They all, let's be honest, a lot of Sony's mascot line and like their hit games, all pretty generic, kind of homogenized type material, aren't they?
I mean, the exception is the Naughty Dog stuff.
That is the exception. Like, Uncharted is fantastic,
and The Last of Us
Heavy Rain is a fantastic thing, and I'm really looking forward to both The Last of Us and Beyond Two Souls.
Yeah,
which will hopefully be out incredibly soon. I'm really looking forward to those. But outside of that, not that fussed.
There's
really.
An occasional indie game, isn't there? But,
occasional like Journey, Journey and Flower and that stuff. But
and of course, Wipeout. Back in the day.
But that may go.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's the platform exclusives that I actually care about are sparse on the PlayStation.
I think Xbox
compared to like
win,
the Halo, the Gears of War.
Exactly, you can't really beat those. The thing
Forza,
there is that
come on, Forza just beats GT hands down.
Well, that's debatable for some people. Not for us.
It's not even remotely
for
true.
Some people. But PlayStation had nothing to touch Halo. But that's the interesting thing. Those two franchises, the shooters franchises that were exclusive to Xbox, Halo and Gears of War, both of them, I kind of feel, for me, have wound down now.
Yeah, well, Halo, is still Xbox, but, it's no longer Bungie, and Destiny is obviously going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
So, again,
Supposedly
not
at the,
really an issue because you can't really count that. It's going to be like just going to be everywhere.
Destiny might be at the PS4 conference, I heard, so that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
Anyway, it is everywhere though.
Yeah, so there's that, which makes me sort of naturally side a little bit on the Xbox side. I have a little bit more faith in Microsoft delivering their online services to a higher standard than Sony's because they've just been streaks ahead of everyone for the last generation all the time. Despite Sony's best efforts to catch up and things like that, the Xbox services just work better. Mm-hmm. With the exception of the late game play of PS Plus. I mean, Microsoft have to do something about gold, surely.
Right.
About live gold. They have to. There's got to be some value involved in this now because currently
they love that revenue stream.
Yeah, they love the revenue stream, but it no longer has meaningful value to the consumer. Really, when you put it next to PS Plus, which is really good value.
Yeah. When
you put the two next to each other, they're going to have to do something, and if they don't, that's going to just kill my faith somewhat. Also, and this may be the biggest one of all those top reasons, that controller. The Xbox controller, man.
So good.
That's just...
And we haven't talked about the new one, but it does look good.
Well, it doesn't need to change.
Tiny, slight improvements.
This is a little bit, I suppose, of the Sony the old Sony of old's arrogance coming through, though, and it's like, right, what should we do with the controller? It's the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that's the same. I'm okay with that, because the controllers have kind of got to this point where it's like, okay, so maybe the new one probably still doesn't have 6-axis-esque controls.
No.
Probably still doesn't have any kind of motion sensing at all.
No, it doesn't.
But really, how much did you use that and enjoy it in the PS3?
Yeah,
it's like not much. Okay, cool being able to shake my head around Little Big Planet was one thing, but
I'd actually forgotten
the
about
occasional mini games in Killzone 2 were okay.
Yeah,
like planting having to do a rotational action to plant C4 or stuff because they have these weird rotary attachment mechanisms. It was kind of cool, but most of the time, completely unnecessary and not really important. It's
But so what's the deal with the new controller? Slightly changed thumbsticks.
It's exactly the same,
cool.
other than the thumbsticks look a bit more rugged. Apparently, there's a lot more steps to how they're detected. If you see me. So I suppose the resolution
is better
of the sticks is improved.
They're supposed to have tighter dead zones.
Yeah,
which is nice.
So, well, that was one of the problems I found with this generation's Xbox controllers. Is there was this. They had a sort of dead drift. I don't know how you describe it, where the stick could sort of, over time, gain a lean.
Yeah.
Where it would get sort of stuck very slightly. Most of mine have done it to the left.
Yeah.
Now, so the stick will get sort of stuck, and it's possible for it to just hang to the left, and the console will pick that up. So if they've improved that, the dead zone tightening. Because if they haven't improved that, the dead zone tightening just means it's going to go wrong more often.
Yeah.
So hopefully they've made the sticks more rugged in that regard.
I presume they have.
They look more sturdy, but that's just press shots. I guess those press shots are always going to look like the best they possibly could. The bumpers are a bit more pronounced. I don't really know what that means.
Made the bumpers a bit bigger.
They're just bigger.
And then they've got this new
sticks
trigger
have
thing.
rumble in them.
Yeah, the new trigger thing.
The triggers, sorry. The triggers have rumble in them.
So, like I was saying to you, for a moment I got excited that it could do variable resistance, which would, I think, like you were saying, it would be technically hard to implement, but I think that would be a super cool feature that I'd never thought of before. But there you go. But it's not. It's just separate rumbles.
I don't really know how that's going to really add to anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it might perhaps be a different way of, say, detecting in your right finger maybe when your gun's about to run out of ammo. That normally they do that with an audio cue.
Yeah.
At the moment, the gun will start ticking when it's running out.
Gears.
I think Gears started.
Gears had the ticking thing. That was cool. But imagine if you could have that variable resistance thing. You could have a hard resistance at first and then give way for a trigger, or it low at first and getting harder as you squeeze for a throttle, and programmatically change it on the fly so that
it's
when
interesting.
you've got out,
but I wonder if mechanically that's
possible. Yeah,
a really difficult thing to pull. Well, it's probably possible, but it probably relies on a lot more power than those things probably have to offer.
Well, maybe you could just have two modes that you could switch, and the power wasn't provided by a magnet, but just springs moved, or something.
I suppose that's the negative thing about the controller. looks like it's going to need 3 AAs if the size of the battery cover is anything to go by.
Really? That's
Yeah.
quite unusual to have 3.
3 would be a really fucking awkward number.
Well, yeah.
I had a Bluetooth keyboard that I decided not to use ever because it used 3 batteries.
Right, yeah.
It's just a shit number to try and recharge unless you buy an expensive charger.
Yeah, well, we'll see how. We don't know.
No, I severely hope that's
That'll
not the
make it
case.
heavier as well,
Yeah.
which is...
I don't know, the heft I'm not too worried about, but...
yeah. Yeah, it's nice. I mean, but I'd actually forgotten that the PS4 controller has that crazy touchpad thing.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with that.
We'll have to see.
I really don't care. But
Yeah.
it's like, but at least the sticks have dimples on them and not
Yeah.
those stupid mushrooms. I don't know, the PlayStation controller, I've never... I like its D-pad. That is about the one thing I like about the
that's
PlayStation
the other thing, isn't it?
D-pad.
Of course.
Yeah, a new D-pad.
A fixed D-pad on the Xbox One,
Yeah,
which looks good.
it does look good.
So they fixed everything.
But it's just... Yeah, do you know what I mean? The PlayStation controller is just like, well, I know what this is going to be like.
Yeah.
And I already don't rate it that highly.
Well, the PS4 one looks better than the previous ones.
Wow.
I
It
think.
looks... Well, it looks a bit like Frankenstein's monster. It's a bit of an ugly-looking thing.
Yeah, I guess.
But it has the potential for being more mechanically sound. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just the little things like the location of the sticks.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't understand it, but
prefer
I
it
like
too.
the weird offset
Me too, yeah.
stick design.
I just like the Xbox controller. I really hope that I'll be able... I'm worried that they won't do this, but I really hope I'll be able to use a wireless Xbox One controller with my PC. Like I can with a 360
Yeah, that'd be
controller.
cool. If they just release a wired version
Yeah,
that you can use on your PC, that would,
exactly. Either way.
that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Because that's probably one of the best.
That's
Again,
been
one of the
great,
best
yeah.
hardware moves that they made with this gen was just like, well, it's USB,
Yeah.
so you can plug it into your PC. All right, cool. Thanks for that.
Yeah, that was super great. I'm worried that they will retreat on that.
I think they'll stick.
We'll see. Because you said they stopped selling the dongles or something.
Yeah,
Because I use the dongle.
I think they have.
Yeah.
Which is annoying. And Zach's got my dongle right now. So.
Anyway, so that's the hardware. Pretty much, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I want to see some games, so I can't.
We all
We can't
do.
hold judgment on those. I really want to see what they're doing, but 2 weeks. What is it? Nearly 3 weeks away from E3 that this thing happened. It's like, yeah, they're holding their cards for that.
Do you give a shit
Apart
about...
from Call of Duty, which is
Yeah.
dumb.
Do you give a shit about COD Ghosts?
Do you give a shit about
Cognos.
fish that move out of the way?
Fish that move out of the
Or
way.
motion capture dogs?
Super intelligent motion capture dogs.
It's pretty dumb. I don't know. The last
Dog
COD
rendering
game was
technology.
good, but it's a reboot as far as Infinity Ward is concerned. Because I think they got bogged down with Modern Warfare in that.
Yeah.
I really didn't care about the third one.
No, it's beyond the pale.
But the Treyarch stuff was pushing boundaries, was really interesting. So maybe with this new IP within an IP, I suppose, Infinity Ward will have the chance to do something a little different.
But they're not going to. They're going to be fucking shooting
The
people.
multiplayer will be the same, but they can take risks on the thing is with Call of Duty is they can take risks with the single player, really, because the majority of people that buy that game actually just play the multiplayer.
Yeah.
There's actually quite a large portion of their user base never plays the campaigns.
Why haven't they realised and just
Just made a multiplayer only game.
Well, yeah, it could be downloadable and could cost half as much because you wouldn't have all this production value going into that.
They wouldn't do
single
that
player.
because they can charge a full price game for some people that only play multiplayer. They could halve their production. I agree. Just take the campaign out, release this as an annual multiplayer game, and still charge full price for it. And they'll probably make even more money than they are now. But I think for people like me, you get both. And for me, that's what makes it good value. It's because I have liked Black Ops' campaigns.
I don't think you
quite a
care
lot.
enough about either part of it, though.
Maybe. I don't know. I thought they were both Black Ops and Black Ops 2. I thought were really good games. So that's enough for me to care.
I thought it was a bit disingenuous talking about Call of Duty Ghosts having a new engine when it doesn't.
Not.
It's
But
a
that doesn't
lie.
mean that doesn't mean anything.
It's
anymore.
an even more upgraded Quake 3 engine.
Yeah.
Just like everything.
But yeah, it doesn't mean
Except
anything
Unreal,
anymore, does
yeah.
it? New engine, really.
Yeah,
It's-
but they were saying, "Oh, it's the first one with a new engine." It doesn't look that much different to, I don't know,
well, it's
What's
probably a bigger step since
biggest step for a while.
bigger
Since,
step
like,
since
4.
4.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah,
And there was a noticeable visual difference between Call of Duty 2 and 3 and Call of Duty 4.
There were people pointing out on the internet like how much better like the face. They showed like a realistic human face. It looked pretty good.
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Yeah, this is like Crysis 3 today on PC.
Yeah.
It looks way better." It's like, yeah, okay.
But yeah, but Crysis 3 on PC is like,
Insane.
yeah, you probably still need pretty ridiculous hardware to get your faces to look like that.
Yeah, probably.
I'm sure it was only, well, I hope it was only because of it being a ridiculous mainstream presentation that they did that. Like, the technical bits that they tried to show, it's like, wow, fish move out of the way, and we've developed the new innovative technology of LOD, so that when you look at things closer, it gets more smooth.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no,
Roundness.
and to go into that a little bit further, subdiv, as they were calling it, has been used for years by like Pixar and guys like that for their techniques, so that things get more detailed automatically as they get closer.
Yeah.
So they, the animators and stuff don't have to design them at that complexity. What I find interesting about that is maybe they've done the same thing and made that process automatic. Because if they have, and that they're not modelling them or not storing models to that detail, and that the game is just making up that detail through an on-the-fly subdiv operation, that's interesting. But, naturally they won't tell us.
Yeah, we don't know. But that is interesting, yeah.
But if you know what I mean, if they're just using a subdiv technique to make higher detail models, then fuck that shit. We've just made higher detail models, yo. I don't know. It is all a bit ridiculous, but honestly, if you get rid of all the bullshit and all of the just terrible presentation and crap that Microsoft have put us through over the last couple of weeks, actually we kind of know about the same amount of information as we know about the PlayStation, except we know a bit more about the games that are coming out for PlayStation.
Yeah,
and it's like ultimately just means it's still anyone's game, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Microsoft still could turn around on this stuff. We've got a long time before these things launch.
It's just their attitude. That's the trouble.
Yeah, I'm hoping this will have be slightly sobering to them and sort of like, yeah, we've done the same mistake that Sony had. This is going to be like a bit of a meme fest for a while.
It's weird.
It's not going to be a bit of a meme fest. It was well boring.
Well,
they weren't nearly funny enough things
they weren't
happening.
that funny.
Apart from fish moving out.
Well, there was that.
The fish thing was funny. What's called it was fairly funny.
There was the sports guy who, when they were doing that basketball bit, and he's like, his player was dominating.
Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah, the fish moving out the way was the one that I saw turned into a meme very quickly. Whereas, like, the clip from the press was like, fish moving out the way, cut to Mario 64.
Yeah, what, with fish moving out the way?
Yeah, you swing up to the fish and they move out the way.
Oh, awesome. My favourite thing in the whole thing was, like, footage of a Call of Duty, like, modelling artist. And he was, like, using the mouse to, like, move the jaw of the dog up and down, like, That was hilarious. He's like, do some work so we can film you working. That was awesome. Because someone working in 3D Studio Max or Maya or whatever it was.
It's the way they hyped the dog as well. As
I know. The dog image is now the image of the Xbox One on joystick. Whenever there's news about like the Xbox One, it's mostly just that dog with its like crazy pack on and stuff.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it was quite a nice high detail dog, but at the same time, it's just like, why make such a big deal out of this thing? Well, they were trying to do it in the context of when
I guess.
He's supposed to be an emotional hook for that. We're doing something different for Call of Duty,
Call of Duty Fable 2.
They've decided to learn from Peter Molyneux, obviously. The best place to learn from.
Exactly.
So should we segue on to other news from there?
I guess we should.
So
we've spent this entire podcast talking about that.
Inevitably.
Yeah, it was bound to happen. So Curiosity's over.
So what's the deal?
I was there for the end. Basically,
you were there.
Yeah, I was in the game when it happened.
Only because I told you.
Yeah, literally, I literally like logged on, and it was the last couple of seconds as I joined the server, and stuff happened. I was broke a few blocks, and all of a sudden it's like, oh crap! It just whited out. Oh crap! It's gone to possibly the best Twitter client I've ever seen. It's like as the walls of the room around them just start showing live tweets.
Oh, cool!
Of people talking hashtag what's inside the cube. And it's like, this actually works pretty well.
And what was inside the fucking cube?
So no one knew for a while. And
Well, not that long.
it took like a day for, and I don't know if the guy.
I would have called it a day. It was more like a few hours.
I don't know.
Half
Well,
a day. I guess overnight.
Yeah, a day. I'm calling it a day. But anyway, so I'm not sure if it was the guy that revealed the secret, or if like 22 Cans and Peter Molyneux just outright came out and explained it, or if he just posted the email that he got sent out. But
Well, they said it was on the Twitter feed, wasn't it? They asked him whether he wanted to reveal it, and then he said yes, and then they posted on their Twitter like, he's going to reveal it, which means we can reveal it.
Okay. Well, yeah, but that was Twitter's annoying to go back and try and find those historical things.
I don't know whose account that was, whether that was actually Pete Molyneux or was it the account of 22 Cans?
Well, Molyneux was tweeting a lot himself.
Well, naturally.
So yeah, basically, we all know what the 22 Cans next project is going to be, which is Project Goddess.
Well, I've been talking about that. It's kickstarted, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that there's plenty of info about that now.
Yeah. So, but the prize for this essentially it wasn't really it's kind of annoying in a way because it wasn't like a big life-changing secret, really.
Of course not.
It's not really.
We're talking
It's
about.
not that much of a secret. I mean, I suppose what the prize was a secret, but the prize wasn't a secret in the end, if you know what I mean. It's just basically. Was it Brian Henderson? His name? Something like that. This dude is basically going to be Britain somewhere.
Scotland. Yeah. Oh, cool.
He's going to be the first like uber god of the game Goddess. So he has control over what happens in the world that will affect every other player. And to what exactly that means is unclear at this stage, naturally. But the sort of more interesting part is that he will take a cut of all the earnings that game makes.
Yeah.
So
that's his.
But whether that's
money.
What's again unclear is they then revealed like a little while later that this is not a permanent thing.
It's like
he can be as part of the design of the game. He can be overthrown. He's just earned the right to be first.
So basically, that will happen within like a week.
Oh, do you think?
It's like anything on the internet. You just goading people into action as soon as it's like, this guy is the ultimate god of the world, we must destroy him.
No, I think they'll engineer it so we'll have it for a while, otherwise it wouldn't be much of a prize for the thing. You know,
I don't think Peter Molyneux cares.
No.
I'm sure he'll be more interested in a social experiment than this guy's prize.
Probably. It's also unclear whether or not he will keep his earnings reward when he's overthrown, or if the person that usurps him gets
money for that would be a bit of a weird one.
But what's better motivation than that?
Yeah, but that's too much motivation. As I just said, it's like just the like joy of destroying someone is enough motivation. But if you add an actual cash prize, you're asking for trouble.
What, are you saying that what if Lulsec got paid for what they did?
Yeah, exactly.
We'd be all in a lot of trouble. So yeah, that was pretty much that.
Right.
So it's a bit of an anticlimax when you go into the app now, because you just see the Twitter wall and it doesn't really explain to you what's happened. It just sort of like
it did automatically delete itself.
No, naturally. Right, so I've removed that from my iOS devices now.
Right.
That's done.
Cheers, Molyneux.
Yeah, I don't know. It was random, but heck, it was interesting nonetheless.
It was still dumb though.
It's still dumb.
Where it like got rid of half the cube at one point and all that shit. And it didn't have anything to do with the Xbox.
No.
It wasn't timed for that. It was just like, let's choose a random time.
You know, I never did actually work out what that date was at all.
No.
Because it didn't really tie up with anything. It was weird. It's pretty weird.
I guess they did technically have some kind of time that they had to work to, because presumably they had to finalise the ship at some point during the Goddess development.
Yeah, I guess. Then maybe it was time to some announcement about Goddess or something.
Maybe.
But then I think they finished the queue before that was up.
Before what was
Before the timer hit.
Oh, right, yeah.
Weirdly. So that was that. I'm trying to think what else actually interesting news there's been, really, because it all just got eclipsed by the Xbox massacre.
There was a new trailer, an actual trailer of Sonic Lost Worlds.
Oh, I haven't seen this.
Yeah.
I must see this.
Well, shit, I guess we can't talk about it. Because I'm the only one who's seen it.
I must see this.
It looks...
This will be one of the reasons I'll end up with a Wii U.
It's basically Sonic Galaxy.
Oh, really?
That's pretty much what it looks like. It's like you're running along like cylinders or whatever, and then you can run on the various sides, or sort of Sonic 2-esque with the half pipes and the holes and that kind of shit.
Oh wait, this sounds dangerously like it will be shit.
It sounds exactly like Mario Galaxy.
Because the Sonic got better when they restricted it.
I guess. But, and then they're like, use Sonic's new moves. Wall run. Spectacularly new.
He sort of did that anyway.
Well, not that kind of wall run.
There's sections in Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Generations where you wall run.
Not horizontal wall run. Not like
up a
mirror's edge
building.
wall run. Yeah, but that's different from like arcing with gravity, rather than just literally sticking to the building and running perfectly.
Yeah, you were running in a straight line along the side of a bridge or something, weren't you? Like not even on it, just on the side.
Yeah. Sonic might have finally gotten. It's like finally
Sonic got gravity.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like they show bits where you're climbing up like big old, I don't know, steps, and he's like Assassin's Creed or whatever, running up the wall and then grabbing on the ledge and then flipping over. And it's like, whatever happened to just jumping?
Yeah.
That's what Sonic does. He just jumps.
He's pretty damn good at it as well.
Yeah, exactly. You could probably jump up those steps, but no. So anyway, yeah, you'll have to see that video apparently.
Yeah, maybe it's I don't know. They essentially put out 2 games.
Oh, and also in
quick succession with that sort of 2D Sonic mechanics. Perhaps they're now trying something different again.
Yeah, I guess. But also, in this trailer, is like
3 really. If
you're fighting against 6 bosses that are just like generic, weird, like coloured characters that don't fit anywhere in the Sonic universe. But then also, I noticed that on like the Giant Bomb info page of it, what little info there is, of course, it mentioned there something that wasn't in the video as far as I can tell, and I hadn't seen anywhere else. It's like you fight with Robotnik. How knows? Doing the classic twist.
There's going to be a double cross somewhere.
Man, maybe.
The shittest double cross.
But it's like a bit of a classic manoeuvre, that one.
That was Sonic Adventure 2, wasn't it? Where that comes into play, where you all have to work together at the end.
Yeah, but that's right at the end. That's not a double cross at that point. That's like, oh shit, we've actually fucked up.
Yeah.
Robotnik's like, oh crap, maybe I shouldn't have done that, and then you have to fix it.
It's probably just going to be that again, though, isn't it? Really?
No, because I mean, if they're saying at this point you're going to fight with Robotnik, that it sort of implies that it's going to be through most of the game.
Yeah, maybe.
So yeah, don't know how that's going to turn out. But yeah, watch that video.
Sonic good.
So what else? Anything else?
I just heard that one of my favourite games ever is coming to iPad. Weirdly, KOTOR.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that.
I mean, obviously, it's a bit.
And I've heard it's good as well.
Date. Well, KOTOR, yeah.
I mean, like
a
good version.
Yeah, a good version. Like, obviously, it's a bit clunky gameplay wise. It always was a bit weird, but it's absolutely brilliant game. It's a great story. Bet one of the best Star Wars stories. So yeah,
I don't see myself getting that invested in a really long game on my iPad.
That's the thing. That's the same thing with XCOM on the iPad.
It's not so much of a problem.
It plays nice, but do you get?
Oh well, I think XCOM will be okay a little bit, but I don't know, maybe if the controls.
Just think how much time you spend playing XCOM. It
True,
sucks
but you could handle it one mission at a time, perhaps, and then put it down.
Maybe.
You know, that's probably a bit more designed to that.
Yeah,
that's
true. That's true.
Than KOTOR.
KOTOR, yeah.
Did KOTOR have save points or something, or was it just
save? I think you could save anywhere, yeah.
Because that's always the important thing with mobile games.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could definitely save anywhere in KOTOR.
I don't know, I see myself sitting there, if I was to play a game like that, I can see myself on a handheld for a reasonable amount of time.
But not on the iPad.
But yeah, I don't know. Something about... Well, the iPad's just bigger and heavier and...
Yeah.
I don't know about heavier. The 3DS is being a pain in the ass for me.
Well, no,
it probably is still heavier.
My iPad is definitely heavier than the 3DS.
Heavy enough that it's actually in, like, hand stress.
Oh, it depends how you're holding it. Some games you do kind of tired quite quickly holding the iPad.
The iPad's always been too heavy for my liking. I feel like they should...
Well, it's because
the iPad Mini's quite nice.
Well, it's because the whole point of it's like in the vast majority of cases with the iPad, you're pretty much having to hold it in one hand and push it with the other. You're not distributing the weight like you would with the DS's button.
Yeah, you can hold it side by side, but then your movement range is pretty limited.
Yeah.
And it's like even... Because there are a few racing games that control like that.
Yeah.
Like that shitty port of Sonic racing. But there was... but yeah, that gets kind of uncomfortable.
Is it aluminium on the back of the iPad? Because the iPhone 5, they changed it and they went from steel to aluminium, and it's a lot lighter and nicer. So maybe they'll do the same with the iPad.
I think it might already be.
Yeah, probably is, because that would be quite heavy if it was just a slab of steel.
Yeah.
Like
Wodge.
Yeah, but they could just make it plastic on the back. Wouldn't be as cool. That's the trouble.
No, that's the thing, yeah.
That's the problem.
Apple would lose some cred if they did that.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, yeah, there's that. Lord.
You want to talk about what you've been playing?
Yeah, I'm out of good news.
Not very much time.
Okay, who wants to go first?
Well, I technically haven't been playing anything new, so if anyone's got anything new, you should probably go first.
Rob?
Catherine? I've been playing
Yeah,
Catherine.
you better chat about Catherine.
It's a weird fucking game.
Yep.
That's all I have to...
That's all you have to say, right, Kay? Saves us some time.
Okay.
No, it's refreshing in some really great ways playing that game, because it's like in a world of sequels and
In a world
of game sequels where nothing is original anymore. Suddenly,
I don't think
the Japanese approach.
It's like technically the mechanics of Catherine isn't very original.
It's pretty original.
It's just a fucking block moving puzzle. It's just like Soccer Band, but in a different dimension.
I don't know. I don't really feel like I've ever played a game with quite so many mechanics.
Well,
This is the thing. There's a lot. In the puzzle element of Catherine, there's quite a lot of block mechanics going on. Like you can push, pull, but when you go off a ledge and there's nowhere to jump down, you could hang from ledges and move around. But that's only when you can't jump down onto an object below.
yeah.
That you get that, and there's some. They start throwing in fancy blocks like ice blocks, which you can jump onto and be perfectly fine. But the moment you try and move off them on the same plane, you start sliding uncontrollably until you either fall to your death or hit something, which makes gameplay really frustrating when you're in a pinch. It's like trap blocks that you can only stand on for a brief, really split second before you get killed, and then the round is over. That kind of stuff. They throw a lot of mechanics at you, essentially, and the edge. It's kind of. I find it hard for me to map my head around some of it, because it's like the three-dimensional nature of it makes some of the puzzles actually really quite tricky to figure out. Or it makes them tricky for me to figure out. I mean, friend of the show, Eddie, was kind of like watching me and having one of those frustrating backseat player moments.
But he's already done them.
I know, but it's mostly like learning. You don't really remember puzzles per se. That you remember techniques in which to get around the environment. So he's like doing that, and he's after he's played it through, I suppose it becomes second nature. Some of them, but he was watching me and having that annoying like second person, like I really want to just take control and show you how it's done kind of feeling while he was watching me play it. It was frustrating for him to see, but there are proper puzzles as well as the main sort of like against the time sort of traversal stuff that I didn't know was there, kind of wrapped in this old arcade machine aesthetic they call the Rapunzel stages, and there's like 64 levels of just pure puzzle where you have to try and get to the end without fucking the level up, which is one of the problems, and without running out of move power, which you don't have a problem with during the main game. But those are really hard. I find those really difficult. Like, often the solution will just kind of accidentally fall into place rather than me actually thinking of the right way to do it, which is a little frustrating. But it's nice to be challenged, I suppose. So yeah, that's tricky. But as I was trying to say before we got kind of wrapped up in the mechanics of the game, I find that game really refreshing because it's just so bonkers out there in its presentation and how it's made. It just feels so fresh and different from pretty much anything else you could choose to buy right now. There's this weird sort of pencil-drawn aesthetic in places where, like, when you move up to someone and you want to talk to them, it's like the thing doesn't just, like, put up a little prompt somewhere on screen saying talk. It puts up a really stylized prompt that sort of pings onto the screen like it's sprung there with a nice little pencil-drawn arrow that pointing at the guy saying, do you want to talk to them? You know, it's just, everything is really hyper-stylized. even like when you've got a bit of text at the bottom of the screen, the little cursor that says you can move on to do something else is like a spinning cube. But when you push the button, another cube falls into place on top of it, like the mechanics in the puzzle game. You know, it's just, there's style everywhere in it. Like everything is really. I'm not sure some of it gels particularly well, but that's kind of the. I don't know if you've ever seen the Persona games or Shin Megami Tensei. Some of that style doesn't particularly gel in places, but it's that kind of look.
Yeah.
And then it's all these puzzle mechanics are wrapped in this really bizarre tale of. Well, I say bizarre. It's a somewhat mundane tale when you boil it down to its core elements. A somewhat mundane tale of some dude ends up cheating on his fiancée.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of stuck in the moral predicaments that it then presents. But then it gets weird because at the same time there's this mysterious nightmare that kills people. And most of the people that seem to be in this nightmare are all cheating bastards. Right. And all of those cheating bastards just happen to be the people that you hang out with at the bar.
Of course.
Like all of them.
Oh, great.
It's a really convenient premise.
It's not convenient though. It's hella obvious. Spoilers. I'm not going to say any, but it's like.
Then why would everyone in this bar be a cheater?
Spoilers.
Because the bar doesn't exist. It's got to be.
I actually don't know the very specifics, so that could actually be true. But...
It could be. The bar's not real. It's all a dream. You'll wake up. The whole thing's a nightmare. Maybe I don't know. This is all speculative. I don't know. But it's
but the fact that you just said like some dude that happens to cheat on his girlfriend, that sort of gives it away, really. Anyway, moving on.
I don't think it does, but you obviously know. But
well, I know enough. I think I know anyway.
But anyway, the only sort of irritating thing about the storyline is it's a little bit hokey because the voice acting's not up to scratch, and it's a bit. Yeah, it's Japanese storytelling, so some of the emotional responses are a bit
crazy.
Yeah, they're a bit crazy and a bit alien. Like you can't help think, like in some of the scenarios, say where it's a bit awkward. Say that both of the ladies are in the same place at the same time, and Vincent's trying to deal with it. That some of the things you would say, or some of the things you just wouldn't say, and he's like just not really saying anything, and you're just like. Come on, you could diffuse this in one word. Come on. It's a bit frustrating knowing that the guy you're role playing is a bit of an idiot and a bit of a douche at times.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. I can't remember what game. There's a game you mentioned where it's a bit of a problem sometimes where you find it hard to get into it because the guy you're playing is a dick.
Were you thinking of LA Noire? Were you?
Oh yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
Cole Phelps is a bit of a knob jockey.
Yeah, absolutely. But I didn't find that too much of a problem. Because
it didn't really impede the gameplay that much, I guess.
No.
The majority of your time is outside of him being a douche, but
yeah.
Was it Altair?
Although you could accidentally call the worst thing in Eleanor was accidentally calling him to be douchey, like because of the problems of the
prompt system,
the system of lie, doubt. What was it? Lie, doubt, truth, or whatever, or something like that. Anyway, there's very early on. There's a bit where you're like, this girl seems to be not telling the whole truth, so you click doubt or something, and then he screams at a rape victim basically, and it's like, no, Cole Phelps, what the fuck are you doing?
That's really unfair.
Yeah. Anyway,
there's a bit of that. It's Altair as well, isn't it? He's hard to get to like in the first game.
Yeah, he's not very likable, but he's meant to be likable, so that's like a screw up of that's different.
Yeah, I guess.
Like the guy in Catherine isn't meant to be.
No,
awesome.
it's just he's obviously done wrong, mostly out of alcohol, as it turns out, because of alcohol, which is probably trying to send a message somewhere, but it's like. I don't know, for all of the games like moral choices that it tries to present you with, not much you can. I don't really feel like I'm really affecting the story per se and the choices I make, but it sounds like the game has a message to try and say, "Be faithful, bitches," all the way through. And even though it's the marketing for the game is do you choose to go with the hot blonde or do you stick to your nagging but doting wife or something like that? Or it's it's hard to. And then you play the game and it's it's clearly telling me to stick with my wife.
Right. Yeah.
It's
clearly got a moral angle.
Yeah, but As I say, I love the presentation. The music. I have to bring up the music. It's super cheesy.
Awesome.
Like really cheesy. Like bad soap opera cheesy in places. It's
some crazy music in some Japanese. My favourite is always the opening kind of training section of Bayonetta. For some reason, has this weird jazz.
All of
cover,
the music in Bayonetta.
Jazz cover of "Fly Me to the Moon" or something. It's like fucking insane. Anyway,
everyone knows the most insane Japanese music is Vibram.
Oh yeah, that's pretty nuts. The ridiculous tempo changing camera song. Or,
yep.
Yeah, that stuff was nuts. But it's one of the most frustrating games I've played for a while, because some of the levels, like basically the structure of the puzzle game is that every night you go into a nightmare, and then you have to get through a few puzzle stages to make it out. But at the end of those run of stages, you get there's a boss stage, which basically just means your time limit to get up is really strict, and the boss has some powers that can really screw you over.
Right.
Most of which you won't know what they do until you've played it a couple of times or once and seen what they do, and then know how to avoid it. That kind of stuff. And some of the attacks just mean, like, depending on where on the puzzle you are, if they launch it at just the wrong time and just the wrong place, there's fuck all you can do about it, and you will die. It's like that kind of stuff is quite frustrating. And sometimes there just really isn't very much time to get the puzzle to traverse through the area, even if you know what you're doing. And that's partly to blame for some somewhat imprecise controls, which is possibly, I think, the game's biggest flaw. Is I find the controls a bit awkward to get it to do exactly what you want. Top tip, it is a lot easier to make it work if you're using the D-pad as opposed to the joystick.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly, the cube-like nature. But there are times when you're hanging from, say, a ledge, and you want to rotate around the corner of a block, which you can do, but sometimes like you can't. It seems like you can't urge it in the direction you want, so you push like left, and it doesn't move. So you go right, fuck it, I'll try right, see if that doesn't move. So it's like maybe I try down. No, that doesn't do anything. If you push up, you get on top of the block you're hanging from.
Right.
Like so, it's like up is always get up when you're hanging. So you can't rely on that as a directional input. Sometimes getting it to go where you want in those circumstances is a bit of a pain. I've had problems getting Vincent facing the right direction, so he grabs the block I want to manipulate. Just little things like that, because you got to be a little careful on how you controls, because basically the X button does everything. If you're facing a block, you push X to grab it, and then your next directional input determines whether you pull it or push it away from you. So it's like if you're a little bit out of sync with those, like trying to face him in the right direction to push it, you'll find yourself just pushing the block. And it's like, that can really screw you up if you do that at the wrong moment. And it's, so that can get a little frustrating. I find some of the gimmick blocks a little inconsistent. Like trap blocks I find a bit frustrating, because sometimes you can just be trying to run over one and Vincent will inexplicably stop on the trap block, despite the fact you haven't lifted your finger from the D-pad to keep moving. And you'll just get killed. And it's like, being killed in this game means going back to the start of the level, or going to the one checkpoint that's on the level. And so it has some control problems, which is a real shame, because that's where pretty much all of my frustration lies. Is in the controlling of the game. I can sort of forgive it for being hard, because it is hard, but sloppy controls, I'm not sure that's ever forgivable.
No, that's so. I mean, it's the interface between you and the game.
Yeah. But it's a lot easier on the D-pad. As soon as I realised that, because I'm so used to just using the analog stick for everything. Yeah. As soon as I realised that the D-pad, it does work a lot better if you use that, but still not perfect. Still not perfect. But that's probably the complexity of the 3D puzzle. Maybe perhaps they could have solved it with the use of another button. Maybe like one for push, one for pull. Maybe that would have solved it a little. But
maybe you could use a lighting stick.
Yeah, maybe that could work. So yeah, that's pretty much Catherine. I'm going to keep going.
It's an arcade game. Could you play it? No, I suppose you need to start.
No, not really. It doesn't really pace itself like that. Right. You need to. You can save after every level, but if you finish a nightmare, you have to be prepared for a lengthy series of cutscenes before you gain control and can save again. It's that kind of it's almost not. It's not great for a quick spell, really, because you don't know when you're going to get yourself caught in cutscenes, and you can't save until you've got through the cutscenes. It doesn't immediately save after you completing a level.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. But as I say, I'm glad I'm playing it because it's just so out there. It's like, and it feels like the sort of games perhaps we used to play all the time, like in the sort of when video games were like coming up back in, I don't know, the first gen 3D and earlier type stuff. You know, when people were still messing with concepts, people were still doing these weird and wonderful games more frequently, and it's like it's kind of nice to see that some of that still goes on. Just a shame that, you know, has to come from Japan, I guess. It's like, not that I'm knocking Japan, it's just that perhaps we need to see more of that in Western stuff. But it feels like a one-way street, almost. It's a bit of a generalisation, but, you know, there's probably a lot of stuff that happens in Japan that just doesn't come out over here anymore.
Yeah, that does seem to be a bit of a separation where everything came together at one point, and now it seems to be diverging again.
Yeah.
In terms of Japanese games and Western games. Western games make a lot more money these days.
True.
It didn't used to be true. Obviously, it used to be Japanese games made all the money back in the day.
Well, they finally found how to appeal to the mass market, I guess, is what Western games have done for Western audiences. So,
because Nintendo never had a problem appealing to everyone.
No, weirdly. Despite the fact, you know, Italian plumbers set in a kingdom filled with mushrooms.
Yeah.
Like, of course.
Of course. Why didn't I think of that? That's a question.
Could anyone pull that off?
They were Italian plumbers. It was a sprite, for Christ's sake.
Could anyone pull this off anymore? You know, could anyone actually create a world like that in this day and age and it become popular?
Yeah, indie people could do it. There's some weird worlds.
That big, though?
No, probably not that big.
You can't say, like, it's not like you're just going to create a new franchise and the first game you'll produce is, like, Mario Galaxy, because the Mario came from, like, the NES and built up through, like, 10 goddamn games and 5 different systems.
No, I get that, but could you build something that is that weird and that... Well, you know, sort of there is no real cohesion between any of the concepts in Mario, is it? It's just things just happen to be because that was what they could draw back on the NES, and it's like, could you actually build a franchise from that? You know, that could be that disjointed, I suppose, and that disconnected that people actually care about, because that there really hasn't been essentially a kid-friendly, like, family game franchise, I suppose, that has become that big. Ratchet and Clank has kind of gone by the wayside of late.
Yeah.
Jack and Daxter just disappeared. You know, and they were probably at one point the two biggest, perhaps, competitors. Crash Bandicoot gone.
Yeah,
you know, and they all started like, well, that was PlayStation generation, I suppose. Then PS2 generation, and those have just disappeared. Microsoft never got that with like
Blinks the Time Sweeper.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's favourite.
I'm not sure you could make something like that anymore. Sega get away with it because Sonic was in the middle of all that, really, back in the old Mega Drive days.
It's because no one apart from Nintendo ever worked out how to move into 3D with that idea. Really. It's like all those other ones that were PlayStation 1, they tried, but they weren't as good as Mario, so no one liked them as much.
Banjo-Kazooie.
No, I don't know, Crash Bandicoot was predated Mario 64, didn't it?
No. Did it? No way. Well, Mario 64 was like a launch game, wasn't it? So that was 96.
But 64 came out after PlayStation by quite some way.
How far, though?
But it doesn't matter which one came out first. It matters which one controlled better.
Oh yeah, Mario
Bandicoot was fine.
It
didn't have analog. Don't forget at that point.
Well, yeah,
and Mario 64 did invent analog essentially. So you know they have that.
Mario 64 is an incredible game.
Yeah, it is. I'm not doubting.
No, but Bandicoot's
Do you know? But yeah, I'm just saying. There's been
I know
1,000,001 franchises.
I'm not sure the
come
answer
and go.
to your question.
Yeah,
really.
it's definitely.
What about like? This isn't really like Mario or those games, but like Little Big Planet, I don't know. That's like relatively new, and it's got like these Sackboy characters, and it's kind of kid friendly.
I don't know if it's got the. I don't think the problem with
Little Big Planet is
it doesn't really have its own. And this is part of its point, I suppose. Is it doesn't really have its own character
aesthetic,
per se. It does have an aesthetic, but it doesn't necessarily have its own own world, its own story, its own concepts to latch onto because you make all of those.
Yeah, sure. That's true. I was just trying to think of something that was like new, that was
I don't really
not
watch
indie.
Skylanders, maybe, but
yeah, that's
it's
clever.
like I suppose that's the only reason Spyro is still relevant.
Skylanders is a very clever idea.
Or Spyro.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be eclipsed when the Disney one comes out.
Do you think?
Yeah, come on. It's like what? I mean, what kid is not going to want to like do that exact same concept with the most beloved characters in history, like Star Wars stuff and all the rather than making up characters, you've got a lot of characters that a lot of kids are very,
I guess,
attached to.
The advantage of making up characters is that they could actually assign them new things they could like have elemental things in the game without having to stretch.
But yeah, true. From a gameplay perspective, yeah, it makes sense to make characters, but it's Disney, man.
It's like in Disney, in like all the Star Wars guys, it's going to be like, here's all the dudes with lightsabers, here's all the dudes with guns. Or then maybe they won't even have that. Actually, that's going to be weird when you think about it.
Are we even sure this game is going to be made? Or is this just an assumption?
Yeah.
It's definitely going to happen.
Okay.
And like Captain Jack Sparrow. And it's like, what?
Disney
How is it even going to happen? They can't shoot or sword fight, can they?
Is it called Disney Infinity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Just keep making Kingdom Hearts, goddammit.
Because that's been working real well.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone
knows Kingdom Hearts.
So we should move on.
Yeah, we should.
Pretty sharp.
Okay,
Zach. Well, I just got a couple of other things. So I played through Crysis Warhead.
At last. Get that fucking out of the way.
Pretty much, yeah. It's quite short, but has a number of... it tried to take a more action stance on Crysis and doesn't really work for it. The action sequences are a bit clunky when you get them, that aren't straight jungle stealth killing. It actually works best when it's trying to be Halo, like where you walk into an environment that's quite enclosed and you have a bit of a sort of stylish firefight with a set number of dudes, and then it all goes quiet afterwards. I actually find Crysis most enjoyable when it plays like Halo.
Okay, like the Halo then.
It is, yeah. Halo does it better.
Yeah.
It's like it's let down by the superhuman capabilities of your enemies, like their ability to see you from literally miles away.
Right.
Like a flare will go up in the distance and it will raise an alarm, and someone over your radio will go, "You fucked up, they're sending reinforcements." And it's like, I'm standing on a mountain miles away with my binoculars out, scoping the environment out, and apparently they've seen me.
Yeah.
That's unfair.
Good stuff.
There's a sequence in a hovercraft where the level design is pretty shit because you don't really know where you're going. And it ends in like just a dead end, basically. You have to try and figure out what the fuck you're supposed to do. I spent way too long just trying to work out where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah, I hate that.
And it's like, yeah, that was pretty bad. They tried to be more cinematic as well with cutscenes and stuff like that, but they all come off really bad. And it's like, it's weird because it's just like, people at the time were doing this stuff a lot better. I don't get why it was... I keep going back to the reviews that were written at the time, and I just don't understand why it was so highly rated. I mean, it's a technical masterpiece. I mean, it does still hold up, and it does still look really good now. But gameplay-wise, no, don't get it. Really don't get it.
Wow.
So I'm done with that. Hopefully Crysis 2 will be better. What else did I... Played a bit more Half-Minute Hero, blah. That's carrying on. Technically finished Burnout Paradise, still blah.
Blah.
But more stuff I can delete. I'll call it there. Anything else I've played isn't that relevant. Oh, Borderlands. We played more Borderlands.
We eventually played more Borderlands. Because it's still network coded Borderlands is still fucked.
Yeah, oh god, it took us so long to get that up and running.
And then it turns out all you had to do was restart Steam.
Yeah, in the end, after we DMZ'd both our computers and my router and stuff like that, just to try and get it all to behave, and then we both restarted Steam, and then it worked. It's like, what just happened? Don't really understand. But I was playing it with this is the first time I played it with my new graphics card, and I turned all the physics settings up. And it's like that unexpected awesomeness happens when you do that. Just like the amount of stuff that starts flying. You can shoot a wall and it basically builds a little pile of rubble that comes out of it. It looks really dumb, but it's great. Like, or if you're firing corrosive weapons at enemies, it will leave like little acid pools on the floor that like all blob around when things walk through them. It's like It's excessive, but kind of cool.
Interesting.
So yeah, that was kind of fun. We managed to glitch out that bandit vehicle, which is kind of funny.
Well, it glitched out, and then it was weird because like the people who were. Are you going to die, Dan?
Yes, I'm fucking dying.
You need a drink. Right, yeah, like, Zach and I will just carry on while Dan just quietly becomes a desert in his mouth.
Yeah, so we came up behind the bandit encampment and a vehicle had spawned, but the dudes that were meant to be in the vehicle were just standing in midair, like 20 feet up. So we shot them, and then just the vehicle. I didn't even know that you could actually get in a bandit vehicle.
Neither did I.
Like it was, but apparently you're not meant to because the animations are really fun.
Yeah, Zach was driving with a broken arm, and I was sat on top of the gun, like with my arms outstretched as if I was holding one, but like just sort of casually floating on the spot,
Yeah,
able to fire this rocket launcher.
that was extremely weird.
It was, it looked really funny though.
Yeah, got a good screenshot or two of that.
Yeah.
So that was Borderlands 2.
But there's one other thing I briefly went into.
Oh yeah,
PGR4, randomly.
okay.
Just like,
I kind of wanted to play that the other day. I had a feeling because
talk from afar, Dan.
because a slight bit of news.
So back to the news again.
Mixed reviews for Grid 2.
Yeah, we should probably very briefly mention that. Raw problems, the worst offenders I've seen are inconsistent AI, somewhat awkward difficulty curves,
Just
difficulty to know what it is
they
you're
come up
doing.
and fucking ram me off the road.
Yeah, overly aggressive, which, actually probably isn't aggression, it's probably just them trying to stick to their lines.
It does not look like fun.
But then again, there are some people that really love it. Game Trailers, for instance, gave it a glowing review. Joystick gave it a very negative review.
Yep.
Seems like a...
Eurogamer I usually trust, they gave it a 7.
So mixed bag then.
Big pile of average.
Yeah.
It's a real shame because I was kind of gearing out to play that.
The first grid was really good. And, well, pretty much all the other games that Codemasters have done subsequently have been pretty goddamn good.
Yeah, I know.
So it's a real shame. It's the hokey premise, I think, that a lot of people have a problem with as well.
Yeah,
like,
I hate that stuff.
them trying to put a human element on it, which never works! Give it up,
Yeah,
Codemaster.
give it up,
It's
give it
your
up.
worst thing that you do.
Keep it up.
Except in Dirt 2. That was okay in Dirt 2. But it's just so annoying in Dirt 3 when you have to sit through an unskippable bit of text going, hey, why don't you upload it to YouTube?
I hated it in 2 as well. I didn't like it in 3 either. But yeah, do you remember Toka Race
At least it
Driver?
was
They're
short.
effectively doing that again.
Yeah.
With a story. It's bullshit. Anyway, no.
Moving on. I'm done. Zach, talk.
Great.
You got
5
no
minutes.
time! See?
It's your turn.
Technically, it was my turn to go first this week, really, but whatever. You had new stuff. That was more important. That's how we have to organise this podcast now.
A little bit of Kerbal.
Well,
A little
was
bit of
before it
Kerbal,
crashed,
I'm
yeah.
not allowed.
But there was a new release of Kerbal, and it all runs better now, which is nice. So, good
I
times.
can't wait to buy that in a Steam sale because it's just too expensive at 18 quid. Already. I need a sale.
God damn it. And then you won't play it, see?
I will. I will play that.
I don't know.
So-
If you get into it, you could easily fill those 18 hours.
Yeah, well, judging by
by
your
my-
classic pound-to-hour ratio, quite
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
You can easily make it worth it.
So, yeah, there's that. I didn't really play that much of that. Maybe, I mean, it's nice that it runs better, but there wasn't really anything new to it. There was, a new type of wheel, and you can make proper rovers. Now you don't have to have a command pod and have my problem of the command pod flipping the vehicle over, because now you can just have an external seat that you sit in, and then you go.
Oh,
So
done.
now you can have proper moon rovers.
Yay.
I haven't built one of them yet. I might do. So yeah, there's that. And mostly I just played a shit ton more Pokemon. Because, damn it, that game is just almost not quite exactly what I wanted. Because basically, I played it, and I finished it, and then I deleted the save and started over. Because actually, I quite liked the story, and as rare as it was it almost got me. It was one of those very few times where something gets me, and I was like, damn, that was actually...
What, a near tearjerker?
twist.
Yeah, it was actual emotions, holy fuck.
Oh, cool.
In a
The
Pokemon game?
I know. It was really weird. So I was like... And the other reason was because you can't go through the arc of the story and you get to the end and it's all dramatic and shit, and you're like... Well, sort of spoilers, you save the Pokemon world, I mean, obviously.
Obviously.
And then you return to the human world, I mean, obviously.
That's your mission.
Yeah, that was the only reason you were there.
Yeah.
So you do that, and it's all dramatic and everything. But then, in the post game, because obviously you're meant to be able, you grind the dungeons infinitely and you build up your town or whatever. So there's obviously there was going to be a after credits thing, but it's sort of after this quite well made story arc and everything.
Yep.
The bit after the credits is actually really bad and short, where it's just like. Within one day, they're like, wait, we can bring him back from the human world. And then you go do that. And then it's just like one thing that you do and then it's done. It's like, you could have fitted a lot more story in there. And actually, that was sort of what I thought about the whole rest of the story, is it could have been a lot longer.
Okay.
Everything seemed slightly rushed, where it was just like, oh, we found these Pokemon who have developed this way to go make this dungeon specifically in a way that we want them to, so we can go to this place. But they never really investigate that whole idea of being able to manipulate the dungeons. It's just like, yeah, we can do that now, let's go.
Right, okay.
It's like they could have put a lot more story in it, I think, which would have been awesome. Because I think they could, well, basically, they should make more of these. It's not like there haven't been 2 or 3 of these games before.
Yeah, I was about to say, which one is it? Is it like and is it the same story from all the previous ones?
Well, it probably is a very similar story.
Yeah.
I imagine
in Pokemon style.
They have their trope of saving the Pokemon world or whatever, and humans turning into Pokemon. But it's like they could easily. I'll play another one of those, and I think it's weaned me off regular Pokemon because it's like as soon as there's more mechanics, it's like. Holy shit! They've taken the regular Pokemon mechanics and actually added to them, and it's worked.
Yeah, you've made a more complex game that's actually more interesting. But it's like, yeah, could you go back? Is the thing.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking of.
You've played something that's got a little more depth.
I mean, obviously, if X and Y has some more mechanics in themselves, that could still be good because it's still a different style of game.
Yeah.
But the generic Pokemon mechanics are like hella old now.
Yeah, I think you could definitely take the Pokemon world and make that core game a lot more interesting. It may require some fairly dramatic shifts to some of the fight mechanics, I guess. And
yeah,
holy shit, they're like 18 years old.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
super old. But then that's what I came to realise about it, because I was playing this one, and then I actually went and looked up some stuff about like the older ones, and people are saying that this one is actually sort of simplified. It's actually sort of less mechanically dense, and slightly easier than the older ones.
Right.
So I was like, well, I guess I'll play the next one of these, I suppose, because they've got to go back up the curve at this point, haven't they? They've got to make it better the next time.
What were the previous ones on? Could you just get a copy for DS or something?
Yeah, there was one on the DS, but they're all sprite-based, and I think I'm past sprite-based now. I think I need 3D Pokemons.
So you've raised the bar here.
It's I know. They've screwed themselves now, really.
Even the last one didn't have 3D Pokemon.
No.
Black and white or whatever.
No, exactly.
Shit.
But, I mean, obviously X and Y is going to.
Thank God. Fucking finally.
Yeah, exactly. But then it was the classic thing we always said about like Pokemon Stadium, where it's like, they've made these 3D models, why can they not just use them in all the games?
Yeah, because they weren't bad, were they? Like, they were okay back in
Stadium
too.
But then again, it's not like they had much to render. It was just like 2 Pokemon. And then a vague background.
It's not like they had textures either.
No, that's true.
Most Pokemon are just like a solid colour.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then also, as I was playing this and like reading about how the other ones might be slightly more like complicated mechanically and all that, I realised that what I actually wanted was Final Fantasy Tactics crossed with Pokemon, because it's almost there. You're on like a grid-based system, and you've got your directional moves, and the moves have area of effect and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, holy shit, Final Fantasy Tactics crossed over with Pokemon. That'd be awesome. And then I read about it, I remembered suddenly that I'd actually seen this, and it's like, it actually exists, apart from it's Final Fantasy Tactics crossed with Pokemon, crossed with Japanese history.
Oh, that thing!
Yeah.
What's it called?
Pokemon Conquest.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's Something's Dream, is it? It's got a subtitle.
I don't know about the subtitle.
Yeah,
but
I'd forgotten all about that.
Yeah, but that was sprite based as well, and that looked. I rewatched a video of it and was like, yeah, that's actually sort of too simple again. Whereas like each Pokemon only has one move, and that move has a specific set attack pattern or whatever.
Oh, okay, so
and then you hire more units to fill in the different types of Pokemon.
So it's one step in the right direction, but not quite deep enough.
So yeah. It's like, combine those 2 games together, Mystery Dungeon and that Final Fantasy Tactics Pokemon, and you might win. You might give me exactly what I want.
It does sound kind of cool. I think the idea of Pokemon and the varieties between them has pretty much limitless potential, but they just... I don't feel they tap it enough.
Well,
not in interesting ways.
Apparently they tap it quite a lot. We just never noticed.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Are these all Japanese exclusives or something?
No, that one did
No, it
definitely
did come
come
out.
out.
But it's the Japanese history thing that's just like, that's just dumb. It's like Samurai and then Pokemon. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, I think the reasoning for that one was that the thing they merged it with, which I think is what that subtitle is, it has been a series of games in Japan.
technically Mystery Dungeon is based off another
is it?
completely non-Pokemon game
Oh, really?
of a similar vein,
Oh, cool.
which is probably why it's good.
Maybe.
Because they just took this other game that was good and just slapped Pokemon in it.
Disney did it with Meteos.
Yeah, I guess so.
Did they?
Yeah, that was the sequel to Meteos, was a Disney-themed version.
But that was worse than the original Meteor, so
I don't know.
boo to them. But yeah, so that's basically what I want is more of that. So I played it some more, and then a lot more. I'm still playing it. Oh, and also, it's going to have an early nomination for Music of the Year. That's what it's called.
It's going up against Devil May Cry, I tell you now.
I think it has awesome music. Some of the, well,
Barshop music is pretty good.
What, the original stuff or the
Infinite
chosen
stuff,
score?
I mean.
Well, are we talking original score?
Original score,
Okay,
yeah. Plus the crazy
remixes.
a cappella versions of all the. That's awesome.
Which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, it has awesome music. I liked it. Even though they are technically just like 1.5 minute loops that you hear over and over as you're going through a dungeon.
But
they're still pretty good.
Well, the best stuff is, I guess, the old Zelda tunes are all basically 1 minute loops.
Yeah, I suppose.
Right, we've come to the end of this podcast.
Yep, god damn it.
Cheers for your input there, Zeg, for your 5 minutes worth of content.
It's going to be about 2 in the next podcast. We'll be just after E3.
E3 cast!
So I won't get to talk about anything then either.
No, except all the E3 stuff you care about. Because you'll probably have notes written for every press conference.
Well, I'll be the one to watch the press conference.
Although there's no
watch
Nintendo
them.
press conference, I guess.
No.
Yeah, so that's only 2.
We'll just have to not play any games for the next 2
Or an
weeks.
Ubis.
I might not have much choice. Or apart from Pokemon. Maybe Fire Emblem. Maybe Luigi's Mansion. Maybe I'll get round to doing those again.
Right, so catch you next time, listeners, for the E3 cast. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.